What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
6FC. Chapter 129. The Strongest in the World, the White Lion. Advertisement. At this point, the true strength of the White Lion Xia Xing has been thoroughly demonstrated in front of the world. Powerful to ultimate. Exaggerated, even incredible city level. People who watched the live broadcast all over the world have been shocked to an extent. In this world, how can there be a guy who is so powerful? 5 elders. He almost can't stop his radiating bully haki. The supernovae who watched the scene shuddered. At this time, there was a trace of regret in his heart for not joining the White Lion Alliance. Look at those legendary characters. Marine heroes Garp, Sengoku, Kong, 4 Emperors Kaido, Big Mom are all vulnerable to Conqueror's haki of the White Lion. In the supernova, Pani even began to fanatically produce the meaning of worship. The strong, the real strong are worthy of their worship. The strongest in the world. Drake's face was dark and extremely complicated. On White Lion Island, the land where the world government landed has completely collapsed. On the surrounding sea, the 3 plagues Jack, Quinn, Jin, and Katakuri couldn't help but secretly make the ship retreat. It's terrible, the White Lion Xia Xing alone is enough to fight the entire world government coalition. Even Kaido, the strongest creature, and a large group of monsters in marine are not the enemies of the White Lion Xia Xing. Conqueror's haki in the air between the White Lions. They are all armed conquerors, but the gap is suddenly highlighted from the battle. Especially when I saw a group of people lying on the island, the 3 plagues and 4 general stars were sweating and running backwards. The eyes looking at Xia Xing became more frightened. Lonely Red Leadfield, a legendary pirate who has recovered his youth and is strong. Bullet, a guy who showed the power of terror, Blackbeard Teach, Disolo, and a group of cadres under them. On the shore, Garp, Sengoku, and Kong just emerged from the sea. Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, and Kizaru Admiral, who were suppressed and still unable to move. All of them have been seriously injured. For example, Kaido and Big Mom have exploded countless bloodstains all over their bodies, and the blood has not stopped flowing until now. The red-haired Shanks on the main warship hadn't even moved his body. No matter what kind of aftermath, he watched quietly. But it kept surging in my heart. Now I was shocked like the sky and the earth cracked in my heart. Advertisement. White Lion Xia Xing, is there an existence that even 5 elders must use to make powerful moves to contend? A group of strong men on the sea are not his opponents, easily suppressed. Is he really just a person less than 20 years old, not a monster or a real god reincarnated? The 5 elders gathered together now and it was extremely shocking. Especially the sword-wielding old man in the white Taoist robe, the 5th elder. Being crushed by Xia Xing twice, judging from this strength, a single shot is completely to give him unilateral madness. Even I'm, who was watching the live broadcast, stood up between Mariajoy's flowers. The eyes were light, and it was obviously a deep surprise. White Lion, Golden Conqueror's haki. With an inexplicable tone, I'm said to himself. It seems that he knows Conqueror's haki in this form. On the island, a group of people from the White Lion Alliance were already dumbfounded. The masked circle was shocked and shocked. It is conceivable that a person who is basically desperate suddenly discovers that the situation is not actually the case, but on the contrary, that kind of surprise and complicated mood. If I hadn't dreamed, all this is true, right? Jinbei was a little confused at this moment. My heart is really shocked. Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr and others can see how powerful the 5 elders is. The momentum of this shot is also powerful. Every one of them will definitely not lose the strength of Whitebeard Newgate's peak period, and even rival the top combat power of Rocks. It's such a terrible 5 elders. The 5 teaming together only offset the impact of Xia Xing's Conqueror's haki. What kind of reversal is this for everyone in the White Lion Alliance? No wonder the White Lion has been calm, and even talks with me leisurely. For flowers oh. Advertisement. The white bear scratched his head behind Luo. This made Luo couldn't help looking at the white bear in a cold sweat, already thinking about whether to give it to Lord White Lion. I thought we were going to lose, now it seems that such a terrifying lineup of the world government coalition is not the only enemy of the White Lion. Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, and others have great determination in their hearts, and even smiled secretly. The top powerhouses such as Whitebeard Newgate and Shiki even smiled, and they were shocked in their hearts. Xia Xing in this early age is already so powerful, there is no one before, and in the future, who can compare to the White Lion. Garp, Sengoku, Sora, don't be stubborn with the 3 of you, the White Lion doesn't want to kill people, go back. 0. Zephyr couldn't help but stand up and looked at Garp, Sengoku, and Kong who were still wet on the coast. Bullet, Letterfield, get out of here as fast as you can, jahahaha. Gu la 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 Linlin, you'd better run away with Kaido quickly and stay away, don't be embarrassed here, otherwise, the next one will be killed, it must be him. Instead, he chuckled and persuaded him. 0. To be a salted fish, to be honest, Xia Xing doesn't need or don't want to get the cause and effect of 5 elders, which is the pinnacle of power. It is too troublesome. Xia Xing said indifferently. In fact, I always just wanted to beat them away, so don't bother yourself. It is normal for the 5 elders to have this strength, but then, looking at the dignified 5 elders, Xia Xing did not directly attack. As soon as Golden Lion Shiki said the words, the injured bullet flushed with anger. Okay. Do you want to fight? He knew that by saying that, Kaido would not run away immediately. Then, Golden Lion Shiki laughed loudly. And seeing 5 elders on the opposite side offset his Conqueror's Haki shock, Xia Xing was not surprised. One person said one sentence. As long as you wait, your body can recover and shoot. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Whitebeard Newgate also said that Kaido and Charlotte Linlin were ashamed, and on the one hand, he had a strong killing intent on Kaido. Chapter 130. This is the real highest combat power of the world government. Advertisement. Sakazuki, Borsellino, you better stop. Don't you understand? The current White Lion Xia Xing is no longer what you can deal with. Aokiji Kuzan shook his head even more, and persuaded the Red Dog Sakazuki and others. The White Lion Xia Xing is easygoing and lazy, so he doesn't want to do more entanglement. In his heart, there is no such thing as fighting for power. And the world government is pressing so hard, not directly killing people is already a benevolent manifestation. The people in the coalition of the world government listen to Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, and Zephyr, Qingshang. Although it is very uncomfortable, but I have to admit that the truth is cruel. The White Lion Xia Xing is so powerful that they really realize that there is no chance of winning on their side. Even Xia Xing's simple Conqueror's Haki is covered, and it is impossible to resist it without the strength of the 5 old, 65-0 stars. Not to mention the devil fruit-like ability carried on it. What shock fruit's vibrating power, what illusory Conqueror's Haki outside of the body constitutes the form of the great Buddha. Just take one out, even the old guy like Garp can't hold it. Suddenly, the 5 auras of abrupt horror broke out again. Its 5 elders, Sakazuki, Green Bull and others were shocked. Others were even more shocked, the 5 elders even planned to continue to shoot. We can't retire, White Lion. You must be dealt with today and brought back to Mariajoy. You should know that you must go back to stand trial. The majesty of Mariajoy cannot be challenged, nor can the dignity of celestial dragons be broken. 5 elders said a word, and did not change their minds because of Xia Xing's attitude. Because Lord Yim has already ordered. The White Lion must be brought back. After that, no matter how helpless Xia Xing's expression is, immediately began to take out his strongest form, preparing for the 5 people to join hands to win the White Lion Xia Xing. Advertisement. The 5 elders with swords and white robes directly held the swords in both hands, armed Conqueror's Haki forming a peculiar arc around the body. Starting from the sword, the breath of Asura Purgatory appeared again. In the deep blue Haki, a figure of Ashura appeared directly behind the 5th elder. This completely opened the Ashura form. The breath from Purgatory was permeating, and everyone around couldn't help but shudder, and felt cold from the bottom of my heart. The armed conquerors of the 4 elders spun around, condensing towards the legs, and during the extremely fast rotation, blue fireworks appeared on the legs. The momentum is even more majestic, straight into the sky, without any movement of the body, but standing directly in the air. The 3rd elder fell on the huge vine at this time. The whole body turned into black and red skin, and his fist was like a liquid flowing armed conqueror's Haki. This is a special effect of condensed limits. The 2 elders with 1 punch and 1 leg have an indescribable superposition of aura, and they are infinitely huge in the eyes of people. Intuition is extremely powerful. And the 2nd elder with the ability of the fruit of the phantom beast directly changed from the beast form to the semi-beast form of the unicorn. The whole body is covered with scales up and down, and there is a unicorn firework rising. This time, he also truly released his own Conqueror's Haki, as if he had a life, and merged with the unicorn fireworks on the semi-beastized body. A mysterious, terrifying and powerful blue flame envelops the whole body. Above the momentum, he is even more powerful than the other 5 elders. The flames burning on the body made people with flame ability like Sakazuki fear in their hearts. This is exactly the sacred fire from the nether hell. And the most terrifying great elder finally used his true form. The whole body, clothes, and skin all turned into mercury. Then the flowing mercury extended 3 heads and 6 arms. A series of sharp thorns protruded, and after 3 heads and 6 arms, a large group of mercury stretched out on the head with countless fists. With the coverage of armed conqueror's Haki, it presents a terrifying power that truly makes the space tremble. The auras of the 5 people blended with each other. At this time, they broke out together, and the space seemed to be rippling, and the color between the sky and the earth immediately changed. The sea began to scream. Advertisement. Everyone was horrified inexplicably, and couldn't help feeling a sense of fear. This is the incomparable power that instinctively inspired the fear to a level. There is no dark cloud in the entire sky, but it is gray. The thunder and lightning did not flash in the sky, but emerged out of thin air around the 5 people, and the blue thunder blasted in all directions. Such a powerful picture that shakes the earth. People from all over the world in front of the live broadcast were deeply shocked. 5 elders, descendants of God, is this going to mobilize God to punish the world? The deeply brainwashed people in the alliance countries even turned their heads down and worshipped, impressed by the great power of 5 elders at this time. Both parties at the scene were terrified. Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr, Rayleigh, Aokiji and others couldn't help but look at the vision of the heavens and the earth in front of them, the scene of the Great Sea Madness. 5 elders has taken out its real strength, and it can still be so powerful. It's just not as horrible as Xia Xing shows. But from the perspective of current power, if we join forces, there may be a real opportunity to cause trouble to Xia Xing. The many marines and pirates of the coalition force also began to retreat in the shock. In the middle ground between the White Lion Xia Xing and the five elders, who knows if he can survive the aftermath. It was at this time that the five elders completed their own forms and directly attacked Xia Xing. The fifth elder held a long knife, and the whole person was even more like a ghost. Dissipated directly in place. The four elders and the third elder stepped on the void with their feet 0.0, and made a huge noise. The body suddenly disappeared. The sea facing directly under his feet sank instantly, and Zhang Caxia couldn't rebound for a long time. And the second elder himself is the body of a unicorn. Thunder fire possesses his body, and his semi-beast body is like a bolt of lightning, flying towards Xia Xing. The grand elder left for the last time, staring fiercely at Xia Xing, and then his figure directly began to fade. This is the last few seconds are all afterimages. The speed is almost ultimate. Even the real powerhouses of the era, such as Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Red Earl, Garp, Sengoku, and Kong, can't even see the actions of the five elders. When they reacted, five elders had appeared around Xia Xing with the power to shake the space. Chapter 131. Still can't open it. Advertisement. Everyone thought that Xia Xing showed such a crushing strength that would make five elders worry and choose to retreat. Unexpectedly, the five elders not only did not choose to retreat, but also took the initiative to break out of a stronger, terrifying force to fight Xia Xing. If there is no order from Lord Yim, perhaps five elders would choose to take a step back and take a long view. But Lord Yim has ordered Xia Xing to be brought back to Mariajoy, and the five elders can only give it a go, even if Xia Xing is now showing unparalleled strength. Therefore, the elder did not hesitate to choose to attack again. At such a speed that neither Garp nor Whitebeard Newgate could see clearly, the five elders in the white robes first appeared next to Xia Xing. Having learned the horror of Xia Xing Conqueror's Haki twice, the five elders did not dare to care even if they turned on the strongest state today. The whole body of arms, Conqueror's Haki, while Xia Xing hadn't revealed it, surged around the long sword blade. The circulation of the armed Conqueror's Haki looks more like that of emission Haki, and the Shira breath that made the pirates and marines tremble instantly solidified on the blade. The shadow of Shira behind it is even clearer. At 27 o'clock, it is exactly the same as the fifth elder's posture. The fifth elder is even a little excited now. 2 times when I faced Xia Xing, I was shattered, which made the five elders who had always stood at the top of the world shy and frustrated. Xia Xing, this is my strongest knife. Try the Shira knife that I have cultivated over the past few decades. Daoliu, Shira, end the world. No matter what, the five elders who wanted to save face with the sword swung it straight down. The deep blue of armed conquerors now seems to have a purple luster. Between swinging the sword, the powerful sword aura that is indestructible instantly slashed out. It is as if a blue-purple line was drawn in this space. The horror aura revealed by the sword aura made Marine and the swordsmen among the pirates feel deeply terrified. Pluton Rayleigh, Hawkeye Mahawk, Foil Bistar, Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral, these masters who use swords themselves feel a deeper level of horror. The sword of the fifth elder turned out to be the Asura sword intent. And it has been cultivated to truly belong to the sword intent of oneself. At this moment, even the eyes of the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye Misuk, showed a fanatical meaning. Advertisement. I can't wait for myself to face such a powerful cut. This level of slash, even Roger has only used it a few times, all of them broke out in despair. Feeling the power of it, Pluton Rayleigh's eyes have memories. There is no doubt that the one-sword style of the five elders has reached the top. And the rest of the swordsmen really felt the gap between the five elders' swords and themselves at this moment. It's terrifying, it's like Shira is alive. Others can see with their naked eyes the terrifying power of the five elders slashed by the sword. With a stroke of the blade, the sky that was originally dark was cut apart, and the surrounding space surrounded by the vision followed the trajectory of the cut to reveal a bright higher sky. It's like cutting a piece of paper. Below, the thunder retreated, the sea separated, and the entire island was shaken by the powerful force of this stirring air current. At this time, Xia Xing unexpectedly did not look at the fifth elder's shocking slash, but looked at the ground under her feet. Look at the power that cuts through the sky and makes the island tremble and scream before it completely falls. Standing here, I am afraid that the entire island will fall apart directly after taking the next cut. At this time, everyone present felt like the soul directly felt a buzzing sound. Later, you can see in the line of sight, Xia Xing's body burst out with a more powerful and terrifying Conqueror's Haki, directly wrapped up with the entire island, glowing with a faint golden light. In the face of the fallen world break, Xia Xing still didn't bother to move. World breaking one slash fell directly on Xia Xing's armed Conqueror's Haki. The blue and purple colors and the faint golden thunder and lightning are everywhere, and the dazzling white light is emitted again. The power that caused the creatures to tremble was immediately radiated. This kind of armed Conqueror's Haki confrontation made everyone who was watching the game complain. Boom. At this time, the power of the confrontation began to show. The powerful force and armed Conqueror's impact on the five elders' slashes were all absorbed by Xia Xing's defenses, and then some of them were directly discharged to the sea. Advertisement. The sea water surrounding the island is directly surging at this time, forming huge waves and going in all directions. Everyone's eyes trembled and they were dumbfounded. It was such a cut, and it was easily blocked by the white lion Xia Xing. The slash that broke through the sky couldn't break the Xia Xing's armed Conqueror's defense, and even it just made waves on this thin layer of pale gold Conqueror's Haki. Blackbeard Teach, Bullet, Red Earl, even Sakazuki and San Admiral's eyeballs all fell out, shocked. This time, the Conqueror's Haki defense shown by the White Lion Xia Xing is much stronger than the defense just now. Now even the 5 elders have not shortened the distance with a blow like this, and everyone is shocked to see it. He didn't use his full defense at all, and even just laid it casually, but it made so many powerful people in the era unable to break it. 653. I don't have any assets to fight with you, and I really don't have that self-confidence. Xia Xing murmured secretly at this moment, ignoring the 5 elders who were still gritting their teeth and holding the knife, still working hard. Fighting with these top powerhouses, it is really easy to destroy the surrounding area with every blow, and even on such a large island, it can't bear to collapse. And just between the rotation of Xia Xing's thoughts, the 4 elders, flowing blue arms, Conqueror's legs fell from the sky, and the whole person was like a blue shooting star. Kicked down on Xia Xing's pale golden Conqueror's Haki defense. Boom. Another violent vision of armed Conqueror's Haki confrontation surging, and the power of deterrence enveloped the surroundings. Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki defense also unloaded its power in the sea again, causing the sea to explode instantly, forming tiny water droplets floating around and above the island during the shock. Everyone hadn't reacted yet, and their hearing was filled with the sound that exploded at this moment. They also saw the 4 elders braving blue light in their eyes, and their legs were still on the pale gold Conqueror's Haki defense. The attacks of the 2 elders of 5 elders fell on the White Lion's defense, and they couldn't be shaken at all. The World Government Coalition forces swallowed wildly and their eyes became dull. Even Kong, Garp, and Sengoku looked at them incredibly. Chapter 132. 5 Elders' Full Effort, Has It Worked? Advertisement. The tiny sea water turned into water droplets filled the sky and the dreamy scenes around the islands. Instead, they looked at the indifferent Xia Xing and the 5th and 4th elders who launched the offensive in shock. Even the rocks of the year were only defeated after the participation of the 3rd and 4th elders. And now, after more than 30 years, the 4 elders and the 5th elders can't shake the White Lion's attack together. Kong, Garp, and Sengoku all forgot the pain on their bodies, all of them looked shocked. The Marines around were even more shocked. Although I didn't see what the 4 elders looked like before they started. But judging from the powerful power that fell just now, the attack of the 4 elders is completely without leaving any hands. Even if it was replaced by a special construction place like Impel Down, it would be completely collapsed by a blow like the 4 elders. But still can't shake Xia Xing. And in the next second when everyone was shocked, the figure of the 3rd elder suddenly appeared beside the 4th elder. Fists of horror circulate, the armed Conqueror's Haki that people can't help but fear. With a fist wave, even the air was instantly compressed and burst, and the strong wind pressure form took the lead in the past. The fist hit Xia Xing's defensive cover directly. 2 waves of white energy erupted directly from the collision between the fists of the 3 elders and the shield. Then, the armed Conqueror's Haki vision that frightened everyone broke out. Finally at this moment, some pirate cadres and Marine Vice Admiral have repeatedly endured this deterrent force, and they fainted directly after a double glance. Even Dafu, Parasparrow and others in the Big Mom pirate group. Doflamingo's cadre Pika and others. Also, the weaker of the beast's pirates was affected by the aftermath and fainted on the ground or on the boat. And Xia Xing is still Conqueror's Haki shroud and unloaded at sea. The sea water just returned to the cage exploded again. Before the next move, the 2nd elder also appeared before the defense. The blue flames that emerged from the whole body circulated on the half-length unicorn-shaped 2nd elder, and directly gathered along the body's scales to the right unicorn arm holding the beast claws. Even the air was twisting, the 2nd elder raised the unicorn arm high, and the blue fireworks swirled around the arm. Advertisement. The power is getting stronger and stronger, and the terrifying thunder and lightning that accompany it also gathers like life at this time. The body of a unicorn, accompanied by thunder and fire. This scene caused Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, Red Earl, Bullet and others to have their eyes trembled. The strength displayed by the 2nd elder is really too powerful. All Zone's abilities, including Kaido's blue dragon form, are less than half of what the 2nd elders showed at this time. Break. Must be broken, Kaido shouted in his heart. The bloody half-dragon incarnation trembled, and the dragon's tail swept up uncontrollably. One can imagine the excitement of Kaido now. The White Lion Xia Xing is getting stronger and stronger. If even the current 5 elders can't break through, then there is probably no one in the world to stop the White Lion. And on the island, Whitebeard Newgate, Shiki, Zephyr, Rayleigh and others all looked dignified to ultimate. After the strength of the 5 elders broke out to the strongest state, they were obviously on the front line again. Xia Xing must be supported. They all understand that the 6 strongest people will win or lose in this war. The various teams of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco, Beasta, Ace and others were shocked, and their hearts became anxious. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 5 elders have launched an attack, and they will soon be 4th. Every one is so earth-shattering, but fortunately Xia Xing is blocked one by one. But the next shot will be stronger, and I still can't help but worry. No matter how much thought is in reality, it is just a moment. The 2nd elder's unicorn arm began to fall. Hiran's fury. The blue flame in his hand burst out directly with the attacking action, and the range is huge. But Conqueror's Haki, who pounced on Xia Xing's defense, was still blocked and then dispersed, as if a blue light curtain was covered in that area. When the 2nd elder's unicorn arm touched the barrier, finally, Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki defense fluctuated, causing violent waves. The huge explosion started to explode frantically at the contact point of the unicorn arm. There was a loud noise. Under Xia Xing's unloading force, the surrounding sea burst and shook up more tiny water droplets, which were then directly evaporated by the terrifying Wendy of Ernie Elder Blue Flame. Advertisement. The white mist filled the sky, and then was blown away by the impact of strong energy. There was a huge hurricane in a radius of 10 miles. The vision in the sky dissipated, and the clouds were distorted lower and lower. The blue flames of the second elders and the unicorn arms were really furious and powerful. Now, Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki is still burning with blue flames, constantly eroding Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki. The second elder's right arm also hit the shield, and the beastly eyes flashed incredible, but it still continued to break through with the other three elders. However, everyone on the island did not feel any aftermath, and was perfectly resisted by the indifferent Xia Xing. Xia Xing didn't want to let them attack like this, but at this moment, the elementalized body of the Great Elder also appeared in front of Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki defense. All the blue flames exploded, staying on it and eroding Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki. One punch makes the space tremble, one leg makes Wang Lihao the sea scream. Crazy attack that doesn't even count the consumption. And the fifth elder gritted his teeth, and the power on his body was raised again. The body and the figure of Shira almost merged together, and they cut the past continuously. The four elders and the third elders directly punched out their legs in succession. I don't believe that your defense is invincible. Everyone is the same armed conquerors, how strong can you be? Continue to attack. The body with 3 heads and 6 arms actually began to swell, continuously fusing into the armed conqueror's Haki private. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The 6 fists are now more like meteorites, and they slam directly down Xia Xing. The armed conqueror's Haki is also preparing to launch a powerful offensive while flowing. In the middle of the huge, the color of the body also began to transform into a black-red luster. With the incredible roar of the second elder, both his left and right hands attracted the blue flame on his body. At this time, the offensive of the great elder was also completely ready. The face of the second elder with small scales flashed even more fiercely. 5 elders, all of them are doing their best. The breath of the beast became more violent, and the 2 unicorn arms kept smashing down. The great elder roared, seeing the attack of the 4 companions without shaking, and a gloomy color appeared on Mercury's face. Chapter 133. The White Lion is over. Advertisement. When the 4 elders after 5 elders stormed, the great elder finally showed his true terrifying power. The giant body with 3 heads and 6 arms glowed with black and red luster, and it was so tall that it was even bigger than the bullets merged fruit just now. The power of armed conqueror's Haki overflowed, and the space within 300 meters of the surrounding space was distorted. It is hard to imagine what a terrifying power this is. When the 6 fists attacked, they even rubbed the air to ignite the air, and with great strength, they continued to smash against Xia Xing's conqueror's Haki defense. The air is bursting with flames. The confrontation of armed conqueror's Haki shines brightly. Even the sturdy Mercury blessed by the great elder Haki hit the defensive cover and splashed. But there is still no stopping. 5 elders are frantically attacking. This scene directly stunned everyone present and the people of the world before the live broadcast. Everyone couldn't help trembling and sweating. Today's Beishi Island is a terrifying doomsday scene for 100 miles. Everyone understands that this is probably a terrible sight that will never be encountered in a few lifetimes. The 5 elders who held the sword with the breath of Asura cracked the twisted sky with every sword. The 3 elders and the 4th elders who make the seawater tremble and turn into drops of water with every kick and punch. The 2nd elder who turned into a half-Kylan form like a thunderfire, exuding the 653 breath of scorching heat that completely evaporates the seawater, constantly attacking. There is also the Mercury giant that is several times larger than the entire White Lion Island. The Great Elder is the most terrifying. There were 6 palms that could almost hold the entire island into fists, covering the entire island and constantly hitting the pale golden shield that enveloped the entire island. Next and again, the horrible energy fluctuations can be clearly felt in the nearby seas, and there are hurricanes blowing. Thunder fell for 10 miles around Beishi Island, and the sea began to dry up. The people on the island were completely stunned. Fortunately, the ordinary aborigines had fainted a long time ago, otherwise they would really be scared to death. And the original 4-5 elders shot one by one, and the defensive cover that caused Liandi finally slowly contracted at this time. Boom, boom, boom. When the 5 elders saw this scene, the attacks on their hands were even more fierce, regardless of their own losses. It worked. Finally, Kaido's eyes came in with surprise when he reacted. Advertisement. Looking at the pale gold conqueror's Haki shield that is beginning to shrink, Kaido and Big Mom are excited. To maintain this Cha degree defense, you have to withstand the attacks of the 5 elders from the storm and rain. As long as it breaks, the White Lion Xia Xing will definitely not be able to hold it. Thief ha 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 ha. White Lion Xia Xing, now it depends on what you do. Blackbeard Teach also reacted from this ruining scene, and couldn't help laughing in response to the aftermath. The White Lion Xia Xing's defensive cover is constantly shrinking, and the attacks of the 5 elders are getting closer and closer to Xia Xing. Marine Sakazuki, Fujitora, and Green Bull all showed hope. The invincible Xia Xing will also be defeated by the 5 elders. The 3 of Garp, Sengoku and Kong had serious eyes, looking at the scene in front of them with extremely complicated expressions. The 3 people who most wanted to end the war were completely speechless at this time. Xia Xing, this kid, can't stand it anymore. The terrifying offensive continued, the blue mysterious flames were still burning, and the slashes that broke through the sky were still being swung. The fists that trembled the sea continued to fall, glowing with black and red colors, and the 6 big fists that covered the entire White Lion Island also continued to fall. Next and again, it shook the heart of the whole world. The island is completely dark. The original Shichibukai, Gecko Moria, was already so frightened that he directly slumped on the ground, watching in horror as the pale gold shield was constantly being attacked. Doflamingo, Jinbei, Hancock, and the Sand Crocodile were even more sweaty, and couldn't help looking at Xia Xing, who was standing blankly. Hawkeye Mahawk has turned his back to Black Blade Knight, holding his arms, and the shock in his eyes is clearly visible. Marco, Ace, Beasta, Joes and others all stood behind Whitebeard, very serious. Whether they live or die, whether Xia Xing can handle it or not, the poison just wants to accompany Dad. And Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr and other powerful men of these times frowned tightly and their eyes throbbed. Is this going to be completely unable to withstand the 5 elders' joint attack with all their strength? If there is no island, without us, the White Lion alone, who can stop him in the world? Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help sighing at this time. Xia Xing, with a calm face, was expressionless at this time, and her eyes were extremely calm. Yes, Newgate, Shiki, Rayleigh, Zephyr, Aokiji, etc. all understand. Advertisement. 5 elders is too strong, although Xia Xing wins one-on-one. But when the 5 teamed up to burst into the strongest state, it was too exaggerated. This exaggerated power even completely surpassed the imagination of the powerhouses of their times. At this time, each of the 5 elders is enough to shake the whole world, and one of them is powerful enough to contend with the peak rocks. The fighting power that shocked the world. The White Lion Xia Xing still needs more time to truly be invincible. Now the defeat is justified. Everyone already had this idea in their hearts. Seeing this scene, everyone was surprised, and felt the exuding sword intent to understand. The Great Elder is still a great swordsman. Even if he hit 10 centimeters of his own, he didn't even blink his eyes. Seeing that there are only 10 centimeters left to hit Xia Xing's body. The 3 heads and 6 arms also changed back to the original 2 arms, and a long sword extremely solidified by Mercury appeared in his hand. Xia Xing still stood there, her eyes calm and expressionless. And the big elder's black and red shiny body at this time shrank a lot with a muffled roar. No one knows what the current state of Xia Xing is. 5 elders also expressed joy. The feeling for everyone is that it is firmer and more solid. Only the Red Earl Letterfield's heart tightened, a little abrupt. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Break it completely. With the greeting of the Great Elder, the other 4 eyes were also excited, and the power in their hands was once again strengthened, and the attack speed was even more rapid after the outbreak. Just a little bit too close. The shield is shrinking, getting closer and closer. Even more effort will completely break Xia Xing's defense. The big elder with a huge body couldn't help shouting excitedly. Chapter 134. Can his conquerors heal? Advertisement. Marine Admiral Chapter 134. The still huge Mercury man held swords in his hands, and red light appeared in his pupils. Grand Elder, he wants to slash Xia Xing's defenses. At this moment, Xia Xing couldn't help but look at the Mercury sword in the hands of the Great Elder. Everyone looked intently, their eyes trembled. Great Elder, he actually armed conquerors with all his sword intent, and his power was condensed onto the Mercury sword. The color of black and red changed, completely turned into blood red, flowing like blood on the sword. Everything seemed to fade away like the power on the sword of fear. The flame, thunder, and even the air around the sword retreated, forming an absolute vacuum state. And the Great Elder seemed to have exhausted his body's strength and let out a loud roar. From top to bottom, the Mercury sword draws a red training horse, which is directly slashed on the defensive cover of Xia Xing. With the loud sound, everyone seemed to lose their hearing. All the world in his eyes is left with the fallen Mercury sword. All the visions were also completely affected by this sword, and they all disappeared. The sky is still the sky, but a huge hole has been cracked. The sea is still the sea, but the aftermath of the red sword energy split by a huge ravine, deep into the seabed, unable to heal together for a long time. The reality is like a silent explosion, but everyone's hearts are earth-shaking. The Great Elder's sword completely surpassed all the slashes he had seen. And on the defensive cover that everyone cares most about, a crack has also been split. After a brief silence, everyone in the coalition forces of the world government showed ecstasy. Finally broke open. Even the other 4-5 elders were surprised. Kong, Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull and others all showed excitement. Even Kaido, Big Mom, Bullet and others cheered. After this battle, no amount of terrorist attacks could break Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki defense. This made everyone feel hopeless that could not be broken. Advertisement. Finally broken. Is the invincibility of the White Lion finally going to be completely ended by the 5 elders? Red Earl Letterfield remembered the scene of Impel Down. When everyone thought that success was inevitable, they were ruthlessly reversed. How similar is this scene now? On the island, everyone, including Whitebeard Newgate, Shiki, and Doflamingo, who saw Conqueror's Haki split in front of them, changed their faces. Sure enough, is it the same as expected? The worst has happened. Xia Xing, the White Lion, did not stand up in the end. Oops. The 5 elders are so powerful, even the White Lions can't resist it. The eyes of the sand crocodile, Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others all showed some despair. Xia Xing couldn't stand it. People like them didn't even have the chance to escape under 5 elders. Even if he ran 10 miles first, he would be completely wiped out by such a powerful 5 elders. The atmosphere on the island cooled down again. The situation has been reversed again in everyone's hearts. Xia Xing maintains such a terrifying defense, and it is now broken by the 5 elders. What is this? Suddenly, the 5th elders looked solemnly at Xia Xing's cracked Conqueror's Haki shield with a blue mysterious flame lit up. The 5 elders, and even the eyes of the whole audience were attracted to the past, staring at it. The dreamlike pure blue flame ignited, and the cracks in the Xia Xing Conqueror's Haki defensive cover were instantly healed and restored. How can this be? The audience was shocked. Everyone watched this scene in disbelief. The abrupt scene completely shocked everyone. Even the 5 elders, including the Grand Elder in the Mercury Giant state, showed a stunned look. Familiar flame. This is the flame of regeneration of the Phoenix. Marco looked at the dreamy blue flame, and finally yelled out in horror. Even the flames of his own regeneration ignited on his hands. Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Rayleigh, and everyone present were completely shocked. It's exactly the same. Even the effect is exactly the same. Advertisement. Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki will also ignite the flame of regeneration. There is still the power of recovery. So as long as 5 elders does not have the power to crush, Xia Xing has not yet defeated. Despite the shock, the original Shichibukai on the island also thought of this. For flowers oh, the hope in my heart rises again. The stronger Xia Xing, the better they have a chance to survive. Phoenix, this is the fruit ability of the Eudemons. After Conqueror's Haki exceeds the limit, can it not only imitate the fruit form, but even the talent of the Eudemons can be simulated. Just before, everyone had guessed that Conqueror's Haki could simulate fruit ability, but they didn't expect to pervert to this point. In this case, as long as you have Conqueror's Haki, you only need to find a way to continuously cultivate and grow. After reaching the level of the White Lion, can you learn all the fruit abilities and use them? At this moment, even the second elder couldn't help but said in shock. Yes, White Lion Xia Xing also has the ability of this Phoenix, the ability of shock fruit, and the ability to heat fruits. The people in the coalition of the world government felt shocked the more they thought about it, the more they felt extremely cold in their hearts. People like Blackbeard Teach and Big Mom all because of Xia Xing's exaggerated Conqueror's Haki, they overlook the fruiting ability attached to it. How can we break the defense of Xia Xing? Then what are the unicorn fruits that I eat? If I eat it, I will be abandoned by the sea and restrained by the sea stone. The great elder couldn't help but yelled angrily. If it has the extremely powerful Phoenix ability of instant recovery, and with the power of Xia Xing, who knows where his recovery limit is? I was aggrieved to ultimate. Although what has the fruit ability is shocked and unbelievable, he now wants to completely break Xia Xing's defense and take him back to Lord Yim for trial. But do you really think that if the flame of regeneration does not appear, you will break my defense? 0. At this time, the expressionless Xia Xing spoke. Kaido and Big Mom, Marine Sakaris and San Admiral, Kong, and Blackbeard Teach, who were shocked again and again, all reacted and were even more shocked. Think carefully. I'm still very motivated when I'm old. It's worthy of praise. It's very good for you to be able to do this. The second elder was stunned, and the other 3 elders were stunned. White Lion Xia Xing, where is his limit? Chapter 135. This is not Conquerors, it is a nuclear bomb. Advertisement. You may not understand it yet. I just wanted to bring you closer. I was too lazy to move to get you closer. It's more convenient to deal with you, and it will make your memory more profound. You won't always come to me in the future. Xia Xing, who had always been expressionless, chuckled lightly at this moment. The lazy breath in Haki, coupled with the words spoken, made the eyes of the 5 elders slowly widen, and the unbelievable expressions were undoubtedly revealed. Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr, and the original Shichibukai on the island were all shocked. Lord White Lion, Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others looked at Xia Xing's back, and they were gradually surprised. It seems that the facts are about to be reversed again. Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, Blackbeard Teach, Bullet and others of the World Government Coalition forces changed their faces in the 653 section, and they gave a stunned heart. A bad premonition came to mind. Red Earl Leadfield had such an expression as expected, fear rose from the bottom of his heart, his eyes narrowed, and he slowly backed away. Bluff. The great elder shouted with a heavy look. Do you think we were fooled by you so easily? The second elder even broke out with a strange flame all over his body, and he was about to make another shot immediately. Just work harder. I don't believe that he is really invincible to this level. The expressions of the 5 elders were a little crazy. Obviously, it was almost a shame, and now Xia Xing told them that this was just what he wanted to show. How can I believe it? The 5 elders glanced at each other at this time, and they all understood what each other meant. Although the bad premonition in their hearts made them extremely disturbed, they still chose to continue the attack. The Grand Elder was holding a huge mercury sword, and 4 humanoid positions appeared on his shoulders. The remaining 4 elders leapt on the shoulders of the elders with solemn expressions, and were then wrapped in mercury. Everyone looked at this scene with surprise in their eyes. Then it was even more shocking. Advertisement. With a crash. On the Mercury Giant, the armed Conqueror's Haki is even more terrifying and powerful. The Shura-like aura permeated from the huge body. The entire Mercury sword burned with Qilin divine fire. From the perception of everyone, it is also obvious that the strength of the remaining 4 elders is all blessed on the body of the Great Elder Mercury, and the 4 strange lines start from the shoulders of the Great Elder to wrap around the body. The surrounding space was trembling, the sea began to form Uzumaki, and underground lava erupted. 5 elders, there is even a blow of such a fusion form. And Xia Xing just shook her head lightly, still smiling lightly. It's really troublesome. As if talking to herself, Xia Xing's voice fell off. The deeper golden Conqueror's Haki suddenly broke out. A golden Buddha phantom that was more than twice as huge as the Great Elder was formed at the location of Xia Xing. Under the strong golden light, the golden Buddha's phantom became more and more solid. The space that was trembling by the Great Elder Mercury Giant was directly stabilized under the shining of golden light. Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr, these strong men of the old age are all dumbfounded. Kaido, Big Mom, Blackbeard Teach and others were shocked to the ultimate look, and a deep sense of fear came to mind. The 5 elders have already shocked everyone unimaginably since they began to break out of the strongest state offense. After a series of attacks, even the space was trembling. And now this trick played by the power of Mercury fusion is even more shocking the world. However, the explosive power of Xia Xing is even more fierce, and just a confrontation in the air can completely suppress the power of 5 elders Mercury Giant. As Xia Xing's golden giant Buddha phantom became more and more condensed, it was like Xia Xing himself had completely turned into a golden Buddha. The entire sea area is shrouded in golden light. The 5 elders were already shaking completely. But driven by the resentment in the heart, the huge Mercury sword swung, with the breath of Shira, the power of thunder and fire, and the 5-man terrorist armed tyrant conquerors swung it down. Boom! The huge Mercury sword slashed on the golden Buddha's body, ripples appeared, and the energy fluctuated. Advertisement. However, all this is in vain. The 5 elders felt that they were smashed into an unshakable piece of steel. The Mercury sword started to fall apart, and Haki fell apart. The flowing Mercury on the Great Elder's body exploded even more. The other 4 elders were also thrown out, their expressions terrified. But Xia Xing's offensive is not as simple as forming a giant Buddha. Just when the elder's ability began to crumble, layers of Conqueror's Haki are formed on the body of the golden Buddha. The 4 elders, the 3rd elders, their fists and feet were directly broken into flesh and blood, and they uttered a silent scream. The long knife in the hands of the 5th elder, 1st generation Ghost Che also shattered every inch, and then was drowned in the light. The dazzling light lit up. The 5 elders in the air were completely terrified, and started to move, and the attacks that could be launched were also directly annihilated by Xia Xing. In the light of the explosion 0.0, at the moment, the 5 people were panicked and completely confused. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The elementalized Great Elder directly disintegrated the mercury in his whole body, revealing his true body. Even Haki couldn't lift it. He directly vomited blood, and then drowned in the light of the explosion with the other elders. Fujitora even used his abilities to ultimate and helped Marine escape. Among them, Whitebeard 2 Wable and some pirates couldn't escape and were directly covered by the energy of the explosion, turning into nothingness and death on the spot. And below, Red Earl Letterfield had long expected it to be wrong, and now it has turned into a bat to flee quickly with fear, and he does not even dare to look back. The superimposed Conqueror's Haki was launched by Xia Xing's big golden Buddha, and instantly enveloped all the world government coalition forces ahead. The whole world, even the remote areas watching the live broadcast, felt a huge shock. Afterwards, it was like a nuclear bomb exploded. Kaido, Big Mom and Blackbeard Teach, Disolo and other new Shichibukai are crawling, retreating in fear and fleeing. The semi-beastized 2nd elder even scorched the scales directly, the unicorn arm burst, and the blood from the wine was instantly annihilated. 5 layers of Conqueror's Haki with different abilities appeared directly, and then merged together. Marine's Garp, Sengoku, Kong secretly urged Marine to retreat when the Mercury Giant merged with the 5 elders, and now they are running away in cold sweat with Sakazuki, San Admiral and others. The ability to heat the fruit, the ability of the shock fruit, the ability of the frozen fruit, the ability of the phoenix, and finally the ability of the Buddha form. Chapter 136. The White Lion's Counterattack, come one by one. Advertisement. Whitebeard Newgate and Golden Lion Shiki, Rayleigh, Zephyr and others have really seen what is truly invincible. Pushing the firm palm of the golden Buddha, the 5th layer of Conqueror's Haki surged out, producing a terrifying explosion. A huge mushroom cloud rose up, and all the people in the World Government Alliance ran away desperately, panicking. Fortunately, there is nothing serious about White Lion Island under the protection of Xia Xing, and everyone just felt the oncoming hurricane. But everyone who ran away was not so lucky. The new Shichibukai, Bullet, Disolo and others escaped all the way or were directly covered by the aftermath, and vomited a big mouthful of blood in an instant, like a heavy blow. Among them, the nearest Blackbeard Teach and his men were even more frightened. The violent explosion in the center directly caused the seawater to disappear instantly, and the aftermath of the diffusion became hotter as it went in, with a devastating atmosphere. Seeing Whitebeard 2 Wable being caught in the light of the explosion and instantly disappeared, Blackbeard Teach ran straight away, and Badges and a group of his men ran next to him. They were also not slow and terrified. 27. They are too close to this wave of attacks. The energy that swept through was even more swift. The Evil King, the Cask, and Katrine even took the lead. Blackbeard Teach ran desperately, wishing to move away instantly. No, you will die if you are rolled up. In horror, Blackbeard Teach had red eyes and bloodshot eyes. The shock of the terrifying energy behind is about to follow, and under the desire to escape, the direct dark suction is activated. The big wine barrel, Caitlin Lin, the villainous king, and Poison Q and others were directly pulled down by Blackbeard Teach, and the energy behind them rushed to the top. Teach, the evil king and the others were terrified, and looked at Blackbeard Teach resentfully before being submerged in the energy shock. At this time, how could Teach care about their life and death? Seeing that these people were used to cushion their backs and the great terror behind him was smoothly stagnated, and he hurried away desperately. However, no matter how fast he ran, he couldn't keep up with the terrifying power of Conqueror's Haki. Blackbeard Teach found that he still couldn't escape, and one of them fell to the ground in a mess. Do not. Seeing that he was going to die, Blackbeard couldn't help but let out a desperate roar. Unexpectedly, just when Blackbeard Teach was about to be annihilated. Advertisement. All the devastating energy impact has ceased. At this time, Xia Xing actually put away Conqueror's Haki with a 5-layer ability. Blackbeard Teach just felt the scorching strong wind blowing and blew himself several somersaults, but did not directly die. And Marine, who ran farther at the beginning, was the same, and was swept by the aftermath. The new Marshal Sakazuki, Fujitora, Kizaru, Green Bull Admiral, and Vice Admiral were hit by violent explosions, suffered considerable internal injuries, and then fell onto the ship. And Garp Vice Admiral, Sengoku, and Kong finally turned around to prepare for the aftermath of the impact, but they also grunted and landed on the numerous ships below, panting heavily. No one thought of it, and looked at the white lion Xia Xing who had just attacked in horror. No one knows what Xia Xing is doing to stop like this. On the other hand, Xia Xing looked at 5 elders, who was seriously injured by the explosion in the air, and was still running away desperately. The 5 elders didn't expect that they had been swept by the explosion. Although they were holding on to them and fleeing desperately, if it was 10 more seconds, they would definitely not be able to hold on to death. White Lion Xia Xing, why did you stop? Frightened. Let's start with you first. Xia Xing smiled faintly, and looked at the 5th elder who only held the hilt. The pale golden Conqueror's Haki suddenly appeared again and rushed towards the 5th elder. The 5 elders in the air had already been seriously injured. His arms and body were full of broken flesh and blood and various traces of burns from the explosion. Faced with Conqueror's Haki who was rushing quickly, he had no resistance at all. The other 4 elders could only watch. Xia Xing's pale golden Conqueror's Haki directly enveloped the 5 elders, and they were terrified. Under the crisis, the 5 elders can only choose to resist hard at this time. Exhausted all my strength and Haki. The whole body was armed with Conqueror's Haki instantly covering the whole body, and the black and red color appeared to harden the whole body, trying to block the impact of Xia Xing's armed Conqueror's Haki. However, all this is just in vain. Xia Xing looked at it calmly, and the power of thought flashed in her eyes. In arming Conqueror's Haki, the shock fruit ability is activated. There were all kinds of torn apart gaps around the 5th elder. Advertisement. Accompanied by the sound of glass breaking, Conqueror's Haki went straight through. From the inside to the outside, with the powerful suppression of Conqueror's Haki. The flesh and blood of the 5th elder burst even more, and the hardened body cracked every inch, and uttered an extremely painful scream. In less than 3 seconds, the whole body of the 5 elders loosened, immediately lost consciousness and fainted. Xia Xing did not directly kill the killer at this time, but instead let go of Conqueror's Haki, and the body of the 5th elder fell freely. Sakazuki, San Admiral, etc., and Bullet, Desaro, who are already on the ship, all showed horror on their faces. The rest of 5 elders are all in fear. He wanted to rescue him but he didn't dare. At this time, Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki didn't take it back directly. Instead, it continued to sweep towards the 4th elder. The invincible and tyrannical Conqueror's Haki directly drives the surrounding airflow, making this pale golden light curtain even more terrifying. The 4th elder directly felt that he was going crazy, but he did not expect that the white lion Xia Xing would directly attack him. In fright, he stepped directly on the atmosphere and made a huge burst of air. The whole figure plunged directly into the sea. The sky can't be avoided and can't be jumped off. I can only hope that there will be a chance in the sea. However, all this was in vain. Xia Xing smiled, and the pale golden light curtain directly rushed into the sea. Everyone couldn't perceive what could happen in the sea, but after a few seconds, the entire sea area shook violently. The ocean is turned upside down. One piece surged high, one piece was completely inclined, or it was just as if the sky and the earth were turned upside down. Everyone on the island stared out, shocked. Whitebeard Newgate opened his mouth directly. Know this scene by yourself. The effect of the sea subversion is exactly the same as when the shock fruit ability was activated. Chapter 137. 5 Elders Surrender. Advertisement. The numerous pirate ships and warships on the sea are moving around with the subversive ocean turbulence. It was originally a distance away from White Lion Island, but now it has been drawn closer. Some tilted to 90 degrees, even the whole ship would fall down. Horror. Marine 3 Admiral and Sakazuki, Garp, Sengoku and Kong, plus the Red Earl, Bullet and others. The new Shichibukai are completely shocked. They look at the crooked ocean in front of them, and they are even more stunned. Caught firmly on the ship. This kind of horror scene, I have never seen such a terrifying Conqueror's Haki, and I did not expect to launch the shock fruit ability that will subvert the entire sea. Finally, all the shaking stopped, the ocean recovered, and everyone was relieved in shock. The 4 elders who were chased into the sea by Conqueror's Haki also spilled blood all over, lost consciousness and fainted and surfaced. In 5 elders, one of the elders was directly stunned. Almost everyone was in a cold sweat and was stunned. The other 3 elders were still fleeing in the air, and seeing the 4 elders floating on the sea, the Grand Elder's complexion was so gloomy that ink was dripping. And Xia Xing's golden Conqueror's haki still did not stop. At this time, the Great Elder completely reacted, his complexion extremely ugly. White Lion Xia Xing obviously has the ability to solve them all together. But it happens to be dealt with one by one. This is not only to deter all of them, but also to punish the world government and their top decision makers. Xia Xing is going to hurt them thoroughly and leave a deep impression. But at the moment when the Great Elder's thoughts turned, the 3 elders who couldn't escape were chased. Even the punches in the hands of the 3 elders broke out violently again, and they punched continuously, but they were of no effect. The blow to Xia Xing's Conqueror's haki was covered in without a little effect. Taste. Along with the torn-apart atmospheric cracks, the entire space was shaking, destroying the defense of the 3 elders. Under this unprecedented force of vibration and suppression, the 3 elders were also wailing and screaming, the skin on his body cracked every inch, and the blood was swaying. Then his eyes fainted. Whitebeard Newgate and a large group of Whitebeard pirates on the island, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr, Aokiji, former Shichibukai's Doflamingo, Empress Hancock, Hawkeye Mahawk and others were all stunned. Shocked and dumbfounded. It was Garp, Sengoku, Kong and Bullet on the opposite side. The Red Earl was shocked. Advertisement. If it is defeated, the world government coalition forces have completely failed, and the defeat is extremely ugly. Xia Xing dealt with 5 elders one by one, none of them could resist. Even the big elders in 5 elders dare not ask for help. Even at this time, the live broadcast bug on the warship recovered, and this scene was passed on to the live broadcast of the world, which completely shocked the world. The invincible White Lion Xia Xing. And Xia Xing didn't pay attention to everyone's reaction. Conqueror's haki let go of the fainted 3rd elder and continued to move towards the semi-Kylan-like 2nd elder. Seeing that the 2nd elder couldn't even run away, he would be completely enveloped. Enough. We retreat. The elder closed his eyes and shouted loudly, his face flushed in pain. He understood the reasons Xia Xing dealt with one by one. What the White Lion wants is their commitment and surrender. He didn't want to kill until now. There is some pain in the heart of the Great Elder, perhaps, it is really their own self-inflicted feelings. It's just that this is an order issued by Lord Yim, and I have to do it, but now, if the world government coalition forces do not surrender, I am afraid that it is even a luxury to live. With the big elder's roar. In the depths of Mariajoy, Yim between the flowers also stood up and put away the phone worm. The live broadcast screen disappeared immediately. There has never been such a character before. The chuckle was revealed, and Yim, who stood up with a smile, picked up a sword and drew a picture under his feet. That painting is a tens of billions wanted by Xia Xing. And at the scene at this time, the big elder who jumped out and retreated with a roar seemed to shout out the strength of his whole body, and he felt a lot older in an instant. Conqueror's haki, who was covered by the horrified 2nd elder talisman, also stopped in summer. Xia Xing finally grinned. The world government had better keep its promise and don't trouble me again in the future, otherwise, I really won't be polite to keep my hands. Advertisement. The feeling of haki on Xia Xing's body retreated, and the feeling of laziness emerged again, and said lazily. In the future, neither Marine, CP, or World Alliance countries will come to trouble you. As long as it is the power of the world government, it will start from the vicinity of White Lion Island in the future, and will never infringe and disturb. The Great Elder looked at Xia Xing deeply and agreed. Xia Xing smiled, then nodded in satisfaction. Remember your words, you can go now. Xia Xing waved her hand, turned around and walked to the chair. After standing for a while, I just want to sit back first. And everyone on the island had no idea that this war would end like this. Whitebeard Newgate, Rayleigh and Zephyr, Aokiji all laughed. The White Lion does not have the heart to rule Wang Lihao. There is no one who does not vomit blood, and countless people are fainted. Even the 5 elders have 3 directly wounded and lost consciousness in wailing. On our side, no one was killed or injured except those affected by Conqueror's haki. Look at the world government. Pluton Rayleigh pointed to the entire battlefield. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. In this case, even the world government is dead in name. It is not easy to seize the world. Aokiji Kuzan also exclaimed at this time. Whitebeard Newgate heard Golden Lion Shiki's words next to him and said. Just let them go. Other people can also be considered as a reaction. On the world government's side, the death is dead, the wound is wounded. This time, White Lion Xia Xing really taught world government and Marine a profound lesson. Obviously you can catch it all in one go. But Golden Lion Shiki has a pity on his face. Others also looked at the battlefield, and their shock has been lingering in their hearts. Xia Xing, the White Lion, did it all alone. Faced with this lineup, I should be grateful that the White Lions are strong, Shiki. The former Shichibukai, such as Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, and the pirates were ecstatic. Chapter 138, The Death of Blackbeard. Advertisement. This action initiated by the world government is completely over. The live broadcast that was delivered to the whole world was also darkened immediately. The defeated coalition has no face and continues to stand in front of the live camera. Left behind the dumb spectators all over the world. After a brief silence, the whole world was shocked and utterly rushed. The world government coalition forces have gathered all the marine forces. The two Four Emperors pirate groups, the legendary pirate powerhouse, and the new Shichibukai have all been defeated. White Lion Island, I am afraid it has become a truly transcendent force. White Lion Xia Xing, really invincible and the strongest person in the world. Sea, land and air, the strongest. The world also has a new understanding of Xia Xing, and New World White Lion Island has also become a transcendent existence that surpasses the world government and is juxtaposed with the Holy Land Mariajoy. And in a remote sea area outside the Grand Line, a group of people from the Revolutionary Army watched the darkened live broadcast, and could not return to their senses for a long time. In this live broadcast, they saw the birth of a myth. I have seen the trend of the times. Chief, if we can get help from the White Lion, can we directly kill Mariajoy and liberate the world completely? Finally at 657, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army couldn't help but say aloud. He didn't even kill the 5 elders, which means he has no intention to kill and doesn't like war. Monkey D. Dragon shook his head and said solemnly. With such a White Lion, the world government will never feel at ease, even if it cannot sanction the White Lion. The White Lion Xia Xing is too powerful. Fight against the entire world government coalition army alone. Sabo also said with a trembling tone and solemnly. Too many things happened in this war, and the information contained in it was too much. For example, both Four Emperors Kaido and Big Mom may completely cooperate with the world government. The times have changed drastically, everyone. Monkey D. Dragon stood up at last and looked into the distance. At the same time, the other side. I suddenly regret. Pony Jewelry is about to cry at this time. I deeply regretted why I followed Kid, Hawkins and others to make trouble in the first place. If you join the White Lion Island now, you will become a member of the Transcendent Force. Even Kaido's subordinate Apu and others are a little bit annoyed and regretful. That guy Luo has completely stood firm in New World. Advertisement. Kid gritted his teeth and punched the stone hard. Regret, what's the use? At this time, Trafalgar Luo had not come back to his senses at all. Standing with the trembling White Bear in the back, listening to Whitebeard Newgate talking with Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh and others, it is still in shock. Although he didn't get revenge, Luo saw an unprecedented incident happening after this episode. The White Lion Xia Xing almost singled out the entire world government coalition. What the strongest 5 elders, what 4 emperors, legends. All were beaten down, not only Luo, but even Shichibukai and many pirate cadres and even Marco and others have not recovered, let alone Diamante and others. As for the big elders and the second elders who agreed to Xia Xing's no more offense, they all rescued the 3 elders who were in a coma. The Marines also began to retreat under the command of Sakazuki and San Admiral. It can be seen that all the coalition forces are ashamed, and the curtain is extremely close. By the way, Kaido stayed with Big Mom. At this time, Xia Xing, who was sitting paralyzed back on his chair, suddenly heard the voice of the retreating world government coalition forces. Kaido and Big Mom were originally fortunate to be able to escape, but they froze as soon as they heard this. Why? Charlotte Linlin's voice trembled. The huge fat figure has a little trembling, she is scared. You have been targeting me for so long, shouldn't you pay a price? If you dare to run, you can give it a try. Xia Xing chuckled lightly, but didn't start directly. In the beginning, I really wanted to kill Kaido first, but now Xia Xing doesn't care anymore, leaving them to suffer a bit. What can Kaido and Charlotte Linlin do? They are standing on their pirate boat right now, and they don't even dare to move. Even the people in the 2 large pirate groups were extremely frightened. With the words of Xia Xing, even Kaido and Big Mom's subordinates, the 3 plagues, the 4 general stars, the flying 6 powers, and the ministers all did not dare to leave, so they could only stay honestly. Seeing this scene, Blackbeard Teach smiled secretly to himself. Before he laughed, bad luck fell on Blackbeard Teach's head. Ding! Cut from the cloud and fell to the ground, making a sound. Teach, you want to go? At this time, Whitebeard Newgate followed the entire group of Whitebeard pirates to stand up. A cold sweat broke out on Blackbeard Teach's face. Advertisement. White Lion, it's okay for him to stay, too. Newgate even went back to ask Xia Xing. Certainly. Xia Xing nodded and said affirmatively. The grudge between Teach and the Whitebeard pirate group is naturally understood. Lord White Lion. Blackbeard Teach was horrified immediately. Being left behind by the White Lion, no one can save himself, nor can he escape. It's dead. This B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Newgate also took the initiative to say to Xia Xing. Xia Xing smiled, and naturally nodded in agreement. This old guy was afraid that his hands would be itchy and he would suppress Blackbeard first. Indeed, Whitebeard Newgate just wants to twist Teach's head off himself now. And Blackbeard, who heard that Xia Xing would not make a move, ignited hope in his heart. Although I am afraid of my father now, compared to facing Xia Xing, the hope of survival is great. Do you think that with the dark fruit, Momo fruit can be arrogant with 2 abilities? A murderous Whitebeard Newgate gave an inexplicable smile. Blackbeard Teach shuddered. Old. As a result, Teach hasn't spoken yet. Whitebeard Newgate's killing intent and Conqueror's Haki directly suppressed the past, and the speed was almost ultimate. This killing intent even Xia Xing can't help but look away, let alone Blackbeard Teach on the front. The hands and feet were controlled by Whitebeard Newgate in an instant. In Blackbeard Teach's horrified eyes, Shock Fruit's fist fell on him. White Lion Island trembled again at this moment. Even the Marines who were evacuating, the new Shichibukai, and Kaido, Big Mom looked secretly surprised. The angry Whitebeard is also terrible. After a violent beating, Teach fluttered not far away. Marco, Ace, Beasta and all the others swarmed in an instant. Chapter 139. White Lion is invincible. No, there is still one person who didn't make a move. Advertisement. Whitebeard Newgate resisted the pain, and almost crushed Blackbeard Teach, and then stood there sweating. Blackbeard looked at Marco, Ace, Beasta, Joes and others with hatred, mobilizing their abilities, drew out a long knife and rushed forward. Shouted in horror. I didn't expect that at this time, I actually didn't have the power to resist against Father Whitebeard, and I was easily knocked to the ground. Until now, trying to call his crew members, Teach found that the cask and others had already been pulled back by himself. They were dead. And Shiryu of Rain, Badgers and others, seeing this situation, have already jumped into the sea and fled. There was no one beside Blackbeard Teach. Captain Marco, Ace, Captain Beasta. Sitting on the ground in a panic, Blackbeard Teach tried to beg for mercy and fear. But the eyes of Marco, Ace and others are extremely cold. Various attacks directly cover Blackbeard Teach. Xia Xing's eyes moved as well. After decades of forbearance, the association succeeded in great success and gained great power, becoming the Blackbeard Teach, one of the 4 emperors on the sea. Now he has completely fallen into the hands of the entire group of Whitebeard pirates in his timeline. Kaido and Big Mom also saw their pupils trembling, a little frightened. Kaido, in particular, has even more fear in his mind. Whitebeard Newgate's righteous brother died under his own hands. After Ace, Marco and others solved Blackbeard Teach, they all followed suit and did not stare at Kaido anymore. Whitebeard Newgate just looked at Kaido with a unique smile, and then turned back reluctantly. For Kaido, Newgate is not in a hurry, his body still needs some time to recover. Kaido was also relieved, so he didn't do it right away. Looking back at the beach with Big Mom, Marine and Shichibukai were all injured and evacuated quickly. The eyes of the two of them showed incomparable admiration. The 3 plagues Jack, Jin, Quinn, Katakuri, Cracker and other 4 generals were all ordered not to leave. They could only stand on the ship in fear, not daring to make extra moves. As for escape, after seeing the tragic situation of the 3 Five Elders when they escaped, I couldn't get this idea at all. Even 5 Elders can't escape Conqueror's Haki of the White Lion, let alone them. On the White Lion Island, everyone did not care about Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, but began to go crazy about the aftermath. Advertisement. The Marines and the new Shichibukai are now starting to move further and further away from the White Lion Island, and finally they can't see the shadow of the island. All the talents are relieved. On the main warship, 5 Elders, Marine Garp, Sengoku, Kong, as well as Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, Kizaru. New Shichibukai, Bullet, Red Earl Letterfield, Desaro, Storm Coon Bear. All the people on this warship are downcast. After a big defeat, none of them can calm down, and they all bowed their heads in silence. Looking at the 3 elders in 5 elders, it is even more miserable. That man is no longer something we can deal with. Feeling the breath of all the staff, the blind Fujitora sighed deeply and said. Everyone naturally understood who Fujitora was talking about. Even though they had already driven out of the sea, Bullet and others couldn't help but shake their faces. Xia Xing's indifferent eyes are all in his mind. Times are changing. I will no longer go to the trouble of the White Lion by my own means. Even a character like Lonely Red, he breathed a sigh of relief at this time and said slowly. After this battle, Letterfield truly saw the true invincibility throughout the ages. Yeah, what can I do? The gap between myself and the White Lion, I am afraid that 10 Rogers can't make up. Bullet also lowered his head and said lonely. The trouble of looking for the White Lion Xia Xing time and time again, but again and again was struck by a stranger. This time, I can really recognize the gap between myself and Invincible. Disolo didn't dare to say a word at this time, he just wanted to go back to the Golden Casino and calm down. Let's live together peacefully like this in the future, and if you go to war, the kid will really not show mercy. Kizaru shook his head, and looked at the 5 elders who were thinking with their heads down. None of the 5 elders spoke, let them talk and discuss. As this White Lion Xia Xing really Marine Admiral before? There is such a fierce man in Marine that hasn't been discovered. This is the myth of invincible posture. For flowers Green Bull was still a little regretful as he spoke. How can such a person who can lead Marine to a more glorious position stand on the opposite side? Advertisement. Everyone at Marine fell silent when they heard this, and Akainu Sakazuki silently lit a cigar and started smoking. In this atmosphere, Garp laughed instead. Yes, it's ironic. I really didn't find it, and I was even demoted to the guard impel down. The words of Garp made the Grand Elder glance at him. None of the damn celestial dragons disdain us Marine. Offended the White Lion boy, otherwise there will be a series of things behind. Celestial dragons broke a big deal. Sengoku frowned, gritted his teeth a bit, and didn't mind that 5 elders was still there. I really can't imagine that such a monster would appear in the younger generation of Marine, let alone that we personally sent this monster to our opposite. In this world, the White Lion is probably invincible. There is another person who can deal with him. Looking at 5 elders with a solemn expression, everyone quickly asked. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. There is really someone in the world who can deal with such an invincible white lion. Kong also looked at 5 elders who hadn't reacted to this kind of remarks and sighed, then slowly said. Sakazuki, San Admiral, Garp and others all agreed. You should know the adults mentioned at the meeting. Elder, who is it? The one who can deal with the white lion is this one, Lord Yim. There is another person who can deal with the white lion. You know, like Kaido, he didn't provoke Xia Xing less, and even this war is the first one who can't wait to start. This is what 5 elders said, which surprised everyone. At this time, the great elder finally raised his head faintly. The words of the great elder surprised everyone present. The eyes focused on the great elder. There is absolute certainty in his eyes. The great elder spoke cautiously, and even said frantically. 0. The great elder said very solemnly. Bullet's pupils were still trembling, and the white lion was already merciful to survive this time. Chapter 140. The real god is Lord Yim. Advertisement. Marine Admiral Chapter 140. Master Yim. Fujitora and Green Bull were amazed. He didn't know that there was still this number. Garp, Sengoku, and Kong all have solemn faces. I am the real power holder. The new Marshal Sakazuki and Kizaru Pelusilino had only heard of it in the last meeting, and the others did not know. The new Shichibukai and Vice Admiral of Red Earl Letterfield, Bullet and Desaro are even more unheard of. It's okay to tell you now. Master Yim is a true god. The great elder sighed deeply and slowly said to everyone. God. Hearing this kind of evaluation, Green Bull couldn't help getting goosebumps. Others were even more serious. From the tone of 5 elders, they could faintly feel, 657, what they said next. I am afraid to exceed their imagination. Yes, the true god, the true master of Mariajoy, and the throne of the void, the world government was only created by Lord Yim. Following the words of the great elder, everyone felt incredible. Even Red Earl Letterfield stood up. To create the world government, wasn't it built by the alliance of 20 great powers and defeated the legendary Great Kingdom? The throne of the void, shouldn't it be that no one can sit on? Even Vice Admiral were unbelievable about this and couldn't help but speak. For 800 years, the usual inheritance statement turned out to be false. Created him with one hand, is he? Even Sengoku didn't expect it, and his tone trembled. Yes, Lord Yim has been alive for a long time. No one knows the specifics. He only knows that he was like this 800 years ago. There is a strong zeal in the eyes of the great elder, even the second elder is like this. We are just off-arcade, outside of Lord Yim. A world government was created 800 years ago and has lived to this day, a true god. Advertisement. Everyone was shocked, and many people even backed away again and again. I can't believe what I heard. If this is not the truth of what the 5 elders said, maybe they would all smile and think that this person is stupid. Not to mention the formation of the world government, it is such a long time, how can human beings survive for so long? If anyone can defeat the current white lion, then it must be Lord Yim. No doubt. The elder's eyes were affirmative, and he said solemnly. Garp, Sengoku, and Kong don't know the specifics. Now, when they hear it, they just gritted their teeth and throbbed. The world government still has such a big secret. Yes, judging from the strength of the white lions, no matter what era, people will not be opponents. But people who have been pushed back to the era 800 years ago and have lived to this day, how can they not be strong? For such a long time, it would be terrifying not to practice, not to mention that this is obviously a monster that is too powerful to imagine. Maybe it's really like what the 5 elders said, this is the real god. Did I hear something amazing? Bullet patted his ear vigorously, and began to suspect that he was hearing hallucinations. Or hallucinations still occur in the battlefield. You heard that Mariajoy did say that there is such an unfathomable existence, but I only vaguely know that there is an existence, and the others are actually not clear. Kong, as the oldest person in Marine, and seniors like Sengoku, often visit Mariajoy and have heard of it. Shocked, everyone had their mouths opened wide. The new Marshal Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, Kizaru Pelusilino, and the new Shichibukai all broke out in cold sweat, and even their fingers were shaking. Master Yim lives deep in Pangu City and hasn't appeared in many years. To be honest, even if he comes out, no one can detect it. The White Lion Xia Xing matter ultimately requires Master Yim to choose. If you really want to deal with Xia Xing, I'm afraid Master Yim will do it himself. The great elder pulled the collar under his neck. Even though he was talking there, he felt throbbing and could not breathe well. The people around swallowed their throats in shock, wiping the cold sweat from their foreheads. Such Lord Yim, against the invincible White Lion Xia Xing, seems to have no suspense. At the same time, in the depths of Pangu City, among the flowers. Advertisement. The I am in the mouth of the 5 elders is standing quietly in front of a sea of flowers. Behind him, a long sword was stuck on Xia Xing's wanted warrant. Conqueror's Haki, which has been transformed invisibly into golden color, hasn't anyone been able to get this far in how many years? The Roger who followed a few years ago didn't seem to have done it. Isn't it right, was it more than 20 years ago? That Joey Boye couldn't reach this level, White Lion Xia Xing, is there any secret in you? I'm gently stroked the petals in his hand and said freely. Obviously there are still some things in my mind. After breaking through the top Conqueror's Haki, it can also produce qualitative changes. This kind of character itself has a power that surpasses most of the Devil Fruit's abilities. However, the Conqueror's Haki with fruitful ability was the first time I saw him. He couldn't help but be surprised and curious. This class of Conqueror's Haki is about the same as mine, so I'm really interested. Yim stretched out his hand, and the wanted order on the ground flew to his hand with a swipe, looking at Xia Xing's lazy face on the pierced wanted order. This time, have fun with this little guy. And on the other side. The end of the war. No, it should be said that the White Lion Xia Xing singled out after all the world government coalition forces. The signs of vision around the island also began to disappear completely. Marine and the pirates, coalition, including the 5 elders, retreated for a long time. A deafening cheer of 0.0 finally came out from the island. They praised the invincibility of Xia Xing. Victory in this war is not as simple as repelling the world government. At the same time, their White Lion Alliance will also become a truly transcendent force above the sea, an existence that even the world government cannot provoke. Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, Crocodile, and Hancock also laughed happily. Even the Empress Hancock took the pineapple pie to Xia Xing's side. This made Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr and others laugh. And Xia Xing passed a scornful look and ate happily. Everyone knows that Xia Xing's easygoing and lazy personality, and it didn't show up because Xia Xing was strong and trembled. On the contrary, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, who have been forgotten, are trembling. Chapter 141. Move Wanokuni and Wangwo. Advertisement. The 3 plagues of beasts pirates and the whole group. The 4 stars of the Big Mom pirates and the whole group. At this time, they were all on the pirate ship that turned into Beishi Island, motionless, but their body was trembling. Can this not be afraid? It's just cold from the heart. Including Kaido and Charlotte Linlin at this time, the 4 Emperor's pirate groups have already regretted their deaths. The White Lion Xia Xing is too powerful. It is easier to crush them than to crush an ant, the same thing does not need to move. After a battle, whether it's Kaido or Big Mom, the 3 plagues are the 4 stars, it is a big nerve. Jack the Drow, a brash man, has a deep heart against Xia Xing, and there is a deep fear and panic in his soul. After eating pineapple pie, Xia Xing looked at Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and others. Hey, it's not tiring to stand so far and talk, call everyone over. Xia Xing said directly to Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin were taken aback for a short time, and they reacted to the straightness of the station. Yes, yes, Lord White Lion. Immediately, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin went directly to their pirate ship and began to let all the crew members come down and gather. Those 27 words followed, and the cleverness of acting quickly made Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Rayleigh, Zephyr, Aokiji and all the people who noticed them stunned. As this the 4 emperors on the sea, are too. Zephyr laughed, his tone of disdain for these so-called 4 emperors was clear. Don't talk about the 4 emperors, even in Rock's Pirate, I didn't see Linlin and Kaido like this. Golden Lion Shiki smashed his mouth and couldn't help but said in surprise. Whitebeard Newgate grinned slightly, and didn't say much. Both Aokiji Kuzan, Rayleigh and others were amazed. Seeing Kaido and Charlotte Linlin who led the whole group at this time, everyone sighed and sighed. After the 4 emperors on the sea experienced this series of things, they were terrified of Xia Xing. Advertisement. The 3 plagues behind him, Jack, Quinn, Jin, Flying 6 Cells, and the 4 General Star Katakuri, Cracker and others all shivered, with deep fear in their hearts. They witnessed the White Lion Xia Xing crushing the coalition forces of the world government. What legendary pirate, Marine's full combat power, and even 5 elders, whose horror is so terrible, are not the opponents of the White Lion. What an invincible strength this is, I really want to attack them, including Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, no one can escape, even the power to resist. Now, standing in front of the White Lion, they don't know how to deal with it, and the people in the 2 big pirate groups can't control it with fear. This island was originally expanded and reinforced by people like Shiki. The whole of this fight is a bit damaged. After the aftermath disappears, I am afraid that there will be an unimaginable tsunami that will come back. It is estimated that the turbulent ocean current will kill the island in minutes. Xia Xing bit the food and didn't bother to move her body, and said to Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and others. Continual wars have gushing out energy shocks, causing the ocean to produce a tsunami response. When the turbulence comes back, the forces that fuel the flames may form a huge tsunami. Xia Xing is too lazy to do things, this island really needs reinforcement. Your Excellency White Lion, just tell me. Big Mom's eyes cleared immediately, and the White Lion didn't kill them directly. He meant to stay alive and be punished, as if he wanted them to do something. Strengthen the White Lion Island. Go and merge the other islands. It just so happens that Wanokuni's islands and Wanokuni are good. Xia Xing chuckled lightly, then said. There are all kinds of delicious food in IWC. Take them all over to reinforce the White Lion Island, so that you can still be a little more lively when you have nothing to do. By the way, don't forget the fun and delicious foods of IWC. It just happens that the pineapple pie is a bit tired. While talking, Xia Xing seemed to be talking to herself. Thinking of changing to another delicacy, I suddenly became a little greedy. After hearing what Xia Xing said, everyone was shocked. Both Wangguo and Wanokuni are vast sea areas, and the land is not just as simple as an island, but the area is comparable to the mainland. Your Excellency, Wangguo and Wanokuni are not as simple as an island. Is it possible to move over such a large island sea area? And it is still so far away, this kind of thing can be done by your invincible power. Ace couldn't help being surprised, and said, someone can do it without the White Lion. Advertisement. Whitebeard Newgate saw Ace, Marco and others in disbelief, grumbled and said with a smile. Then he looked at Golden Lion Shiki, who was smoking a cigar and watching the play. At this moment, everyone looked at Shiki. Well, why are you looking at me? Hey, what are you kidding me? They are two sea-level archipelagos and large islands. If you don't understand the giant inland, even my lion fruit can't do it. If it can, I just moved the naval headquarters back then. Shiki puzzled everyone looking at him at first, and then yelled with a black line on his face. Newgate really regarded him as lion fruit almighty. I naturally know what kind of place Wano Kuni is. Wano Kuni's rich resources, huge islands and inland are no different. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Yan Calamity Jin couldn't help but make a noise at this time. If they were changed to someone else, they would be very humiliated. The two four emperors were even more confused. But Kaido's heart is tight, it is impossible to pull Wano Kuni over. Both of them saw each other's happiness. But I don't want to move and do it myself, but the island needs to be repaired and stabilized, otherwise the formation of a super big tsunami will be troublesome. Yan said quickly and eagerly, for fear of being set to do it directly, that would be helpless. Xia Xing smiled faintly. Xia Xing has no killers, no torture, and his power world is invincible, surrendered, and it is not a bad thing. This is not shameful. 657 White Lion Xia Xing, is this going to completely rule them? Kaido and Charlotte Linlin looked at each other. But what a huge continent Wano Kuni is, there is even an ocean inside. Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, and the members of the pirate group including the 3 plagues and 4 generals behind them were all dumbfounded. Lord White Lion, this is impossible. The nations are a country formed by islands and can be implemented. But this is the White Lion Xia Xing is different. Chapter 142, Conquerors condenses into a ball. Advertisement. Xia Xing doesn't want to move so quickly. I was running away from the world government, and I was finally able to settle down. Why, can't it? Then you have no value for existence. Xia Xing, who said this sentence with a faint smile, made Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, the 3 plagues and 4 generals all shocked. You can do it, you can do it. Do it now, Big Mom. Kaido and others were scared, so they quickly agreed. Xia Xing chuckled and waved. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin led the pirate group immediately to the seaside pirate boat. When they agreed to come down and turn around and leave, Xia Xing also turned to look at Whitebeard Newgate and others. Newgate, you go and help move Wano Kuni over, and you all go too. By the way, take care that they don't let them run away. Xia Xing smiled and said to Whitebeard Newgate, and pointed to Doflamingo, Mahawk Aokiji and others. These guys are enough to go to Kaido, and then they said to Golden Lion Shiki, Jinbei, Zephyr and others. Shiki, Zephyr, Big Mom, just a group of you. By the way, watch them, as long as you dare to make any changes, run away and catch them directly. After Xia Xing gave the order, Heihei smiled. However, Aokiji, Jinbei and others are a little bit troubled. Your Excellency White Lion, after all, they are the strength of the 4 emperors, and we are not you either. It might be difficult to get them back casually. Jinbei couldn't help but said. Everyone felt the same way, even Whitebeard Newgate and Golden Lion Shiki were afraid to say 100% to catch Kaido, Big Mom, not to mention the whole pirate group. Don't worry about this. Xia Xing chuckled lightly, golden light spreading out of her eyes. Armed with Conqueror's Haki once again. Everyone felt it up close now, and their hearts tightened in shock. Under the gaze of everyone, this terrifying Conqueror's Haki directly formed golden balls. All of them were stunned, and even Newgate, Rayleigh, Zephyr, Shiki and others were all stunned. Not to mention the surprises of other people. Conqueror's Haki, it can still be used like this. Advertisement. However, everyone thought about it, the White Lion Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki can even use the Devil Fruit ability in a simulation, so what a round ball is. These small balls of Conqueror's Haki, one is enough to kill Kaido and Big Mom, so many, it should be enough for you to restrain them. Xia Xing threw these Conqueror's Haki beads like a stone. Everyone was shocked. No one doubted the power of this bead. The White Lion Xia Xing said yes, that is definitely it. It's just that such powerful dangerous goods are thrown in their hands. Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others are a little scared. Then Xia Xing directly gave them the beads formed by Conqueror's Haki. With this, it's much easier to deal with them. Aokiji Kuzan looked at the golden dreamlike beads in his hand in surprise. Triggering with Haki can directly make it work. After taking a look, everyone took their orders and rushed towards the 2 pirate ships that were sailing. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin didn't say anything. It's normal for someone to follow, whether it's surveillance or help move the island. As long as the White Lion Xia Xing is not here, the 2 will feel much more at ease. As for whether to escape or not, it's hard to say. Soon, the 2 men and horses diverged and set off in a mighty manner. On the beast pirate ship, Aokiji Kuzan stood there, followed by Whitebeard Newgate's Moby Dick followers. Kaido changed into a giant dragon, soaring in the sky. Below, the Moby DK. Whitebeard Newgate couldn't do it yet to board Kaido's ship. Now he was standing on the deck with Marco, Ace and others, looking at Kaido in the sky with cold eyes. Father, Kaido can't kill. Ace looked at the golden ball in his hand, and the killing intent flashed in his eyes. Such a bead can kill Kaido directly. Your Excellency White Lion said that you can kill, then there is absolutely no problem. Revenge is also a good time. Goo la la la, everyone wants revenge, and so do I. However, we still have to have a report on Xian. The White Lion has sheltered us. Now we will do the things he explained first. As long as Kaido can't escape, it will not be too late for us to come back after we finish our work. In the end, Whitebeard Newgate put away the killing intent. I've been waiting for so long, it's not bad for a while. It's not bad to move Odin's hometown to White Lion Island to be sheltered. Advertisement. Marco, Ace, Beasta and others can only nod their heads, the old man is indeed right. And Kaido in the sky was flying in the fog, and his mind became active. Now it is far away from White Lion Island, and also far away from Xia Xing. Incarnate as Jackie Chan invites to swim, countless times want to escape directly. Especially under the cold gaze of the Whitebeard Newgate group. These guys, I'm afraid they won't let me go easily. Kaido thought to himself, the more he thought about it, the more he felt he was going to run. However, with a backpack, Aokiji Kuzan, who is listless, has been chasing him all the time. Oh, Kaido, you better think again. Aokiji Kuzan saw that Kaido was obviously ready to move, playing with a golden bead in his hand, and said. Flying in the sky, they all started to deviate, and the blind man knew that Kaido was trying to escape. I haven't seen what the white lion Xia Xing looks like when it gets angry, so you can challenge it, gu la la la. Whitebeard Newgate said in a dangerous tone from behind. Kaido's laughter made Kaido panic, and was shocked by the white lion's anger, and then he was speechless. I can only fly back obediently, and dare not leave everyone's field of vision to cause misunderstandings. That's it, Beasts Pirates and Whitebeard Newgate, as well as Hawkeye Mahawk, Aokiji Kuzan sailed all the way, Wang Lijiao through the steep waters, and reached the bottom of Wano-Kuni Island. Looking at this huge and immense, it is like an island on the mainland. Kaido had a headache all at once, so he could only go back to Wano-Kuni to make arrangements. The capital of Wano-Kuni, Kurozumi Orochi sat in the seat of general and was enjoying singing and dancing. The news of Kaido's return came from his subordinates, and they immediately came out to greet him happily. Kaido is not only cooperation, but also his patron. However, in the closed Wano-Kuni, I don't know what happened outside. Until I went out to meet Kaido, I saw a mighty group of human bodies. It's not just the people of Beasts Pirates. The Whitebeard Pirates, Hawkeye Mahawk, the prestigious Marine Admiral Aokiji, and even Kaido's partner Joker are there. Kurozumi Orochi is stunned. What's the situation? Hey, Big Snake. Wano-Kuni is going to move the entire island. Chapter 143, How to Move. I will teach you. Advertisement. Move away. Kaido, what's the situation? How to move, and them. Kurozumi Orochi looked regretful and couldn't help asking. Behind him, Fu Lu Shou, Chuanjiro and others were even more shocked. The current Chuanjiro is actually an undercover as a crazy dead man. Naturally, he met Whitebeard Niug, Marco and others back then. He was secretly delighted in his heart but also had a sudden change in his mind. Isn't he who came with Kaido to avenge Odin-sama? And moving Wano-Kuni. What's all this? Let you do it, you do it. What's so much nonsense? Kaido's mood was already extremely bad. Facing Kurozumi Orochi's questioning, he roared a little angrily. This guy is really too embarrassed. The current Kaido will not hesitate to cooperate with Kurozumi Orochi, moving to the White Lion Island, his own arsenal, and mining farms do not belong to him. With Kurozumi Orochi as a person, Wano-Kuni's position as a general may also be taken away by the White Lion Xia Xing. The big snake has no much value. But, how do you move this? Where do you move? Kurozumi Orochi is sorry. I've never seen Kaido so impatient and angry. However, the words are not over yet. 657A mace hits Kurozumi Orochi's head directly. With a bang, he smashed his whole person into the ground. Kaido's entire face was dark, completely impatient, and couldn't help but anger. All the suffocation along the way was vented on the head of the Hei family big snake, the mace was swung, and even the Hydra form was directly smashed out. Kurozumi Orochi wailed, unable to fight back at all. Chuanjiro, Fukushulu and others were all staring at it, and they didn't know what was going on. When the snake was dying, Kaido stopped and looked at Aokiji, Whitebeard Newgate, Hawkeye Mahawk and others. Your Excellency White Lion is not just sending you to monitor me, you will decide how to move it. After Kaido finished speaking, he turned around and turned into a huge blue dragon and flew towards his ghost island. Finally, he did not forget to snorted. He wants to go and be quiet first. I don't care about these troubles beforehand. Anyway, the White Lion Xia Xing didn't say that he was in a hurry. Advertisement. Whitebeard Newgate, Marco, Ace and others all looked at each other. He didn't dare to run. Let's see what to do first. Aokiji Kuzan also scratched his head, some headaches. Wano-Kuni is too big, this is an inland area. And when Ace came to Wano-Kuni again, he kept looking inside. He wanted to liberate the country a long time ago, but don't worry now, everything will be better after moving away. I want to ask what happened. Denjiro looked at the scene in front of him and asked Aokiji Kuzan. He didn't care about the tragic situation of Orochi now, but directly asked what Whitebeard Newgate and others were going to do to Wano-Kuni. Your Kaido has joined forces with the world government to attack White Lion Island. It was completely defeated by the White Lion. Ace chuckled, but Shikai let it go. It is very general, so that Denjiro and others will see each other. You mean, some time ago Kaido yelled to go out to fight a big fight and lost. And it was defeated by the outside World Alliance government. Everyone in Wano-Kuni was shocked immediately. Of course they know about the world government. Although the country is closed, there are still some outside news from Beasts Pirates. The world government is the strongest organization that manages the outside world. It is said that there is also Marine, which maintains the order of the sea. Moreover, Kaido, the strongest creature, has also lost. White Lion, what the hell is it? Denjiro and the others all remembered how Kaido looked black just now. How could there be such a strong character in the world? In my guess, I can understand why the Whitebeard pirates also followed. This is the defeat and the spoils of war. Yes, all of them are defeated. They are all vulnerable to the strongest people in the world. Wano Kuni also moved to White Lion Island at the order of the Lord White Lion. Quote. When Ace was talking about the world's strongest, he was slapped on the shoulder by Newgate, and continued grinning. You can learn more about specific matters when you arrive, but the island must be moved. Of course, after you move, you are free. If you don't leave, you can be sheltered by the Lion's Lion and us. Marco looked at Wano Kuni's shock and dropped his chin, knowing that it was too troublesome to explain to these people who were locked in a country, and said immediately. Advertisement. I really want to make it clear to them that there will be enough time to go back. The people from Wano Kuni like Schwanjiro understand a little bit, not just to move Wano Kuni, this is to move the entire island. Everyone in Wano Kuni looked at each other and sighed. Look at the Whitebeard pirates and those fierce and powerful guys, where can they resist? If you move, you might be able to start a country directly, and you can adapt under the protection of a big man. I understand, but Wano Kuni is a continent-like national island. How can you move the whole to it? Isn't it impossible? Denjiro took a high look and couldn't help asking the most important question. How to move? Gyula. At this time, Whitebeard Newgate, Aokiji and others gave a glance. At this time, Hawkeye Mahawk jumped directly under the waterfall that turned into ice, and the powerful slash was instantly slashed. The frozen sea splits the gap, and the force of the vibration directly loosens the ground at the junction of the underground and the huge island. And under the freezing power of Aokiji's full power, all the surroundings all the way to the bottom of the sea were frozen in an instant. Ice Age. Can't this move? This kind of thing, of course, is to simply lift the entire island first. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. A huge gully. Wano Kuni towers high, and is surrounded by an extremely dangerous strange ocean above and below. When everyone was shocked, Whitebeard Newgate threw his fists around his chest with both hands, and he also broke out the ability of Shock Fruit. Are these people still human? Newgate actually directly caused a huge earthquake. Aokiji Kuzan braved the cold, looked towards the sea and walked slowly over, and immediately activated his abilities. After this series of operations, standing on the shaking ground, Denjiro and others were all stunned. The entire island was trembling, and Schwanjiro and others hurriedly returned to stabilize the people. It takes a lot of effort again. Whitebeard Newgate grumbled and looked at everyone in Wano Kuni. The sword energy that pierced the sky directly separated the entire Wano Kuni island. Chapter 144. All were invited to Pengu City. Advertisement. Kaido, who was not much quiet, also sounded an unhappy dragon chant. I only returned to the Ghost Island for a while, and I was ruined by these guys without taking out 2 sips of the wine. But I was unhappy and had to move out. This was the order of the White Lion. As I can only turn my body, the clouds began to support the entire Wano Kuni island. Just as the Wano Kuni island moved, Golden Lion Shiki and others were still heading to the seas of all nations. In the center of the red line, the holy place Mariajoy. In addition to the place where celestial dragons live, there is another place higher than power. Pengu City. A group of people were summoned at this time, gathered here. Marine's new Marshal, Akainu Sakazuki. 3 Admiral, Fujitora, Green Bull, Kazaru. Hero Garp, Sengoku, Kong of Buddha. There are even Bullet, Red Earl Letterfield and other Shichibukai behind. Leading the way are the 5 elders, and a red-haired Shanks shrouded in black robes next to him. Under the leadership of the 5 elders, everyone walked into a huge palace in Pengu City with serious faces. Magnificent, luxurious, and majestic. There are 2 long steps in the palace, with 20 rusty swords stuck on the ground in the middle, and a throne at the top. Full of fascinating power, representing real power, the Void Throne. Looking at this place in front of me, everyone except 5 elders was full of surprises. They were all led by the 5 elders, who gathered to meet the mysterious Lord Yim. The materials used here, the degree of luxury, compared with mine is almost to heaven and an underground. Disilo couldn't help but compare his golden city with this in his mind, and couldn't help but let out a sigh. I really didn't expect it. Bullet, Red Earl and others all agreed with surprise in their hearts. These pirates, one day they will be able to enter the center of the celestial dragons, which is hard to think of in the past. Unless the world government is going to collapse. And the purpose of coming here today is to see that Lord Yim who has lived for hundreds of years, the true god. If Roger was here, I don't know how it would feel. In amazement, Bullet couldn't help but say aloud. Advertisement. Shut up. Stop slandering Captain Roger here, Bullet. This sentence sounds to the red-haired Shanks, it is an insult to One Piece. Immediately he said to Bullet in a bad tone. Yeah, Red Taro, aren't you standing here too? Bullet sneered and said disdainfully. His identity is different from yours, Bullet, be less clever. In 5 elders, the second elder turned his head and said lightly. Bullet also had a bad face and hit back without showing any weakness. So what? I am the guest invited by Master Yim. As a guest, you'd better show respect. Bullet snorted and shot back at the 5 elders as a guest. He was invited by the host, and you are just the subordinates of the host. Why can you not show respect to the guests invited by the host? As for Lord Yim, the 5 elders all looked at Bullet, although they were unhappy, they didn't say much. Indeed, this time Lord Yim ordered them to invite them over, and they belonged to the ranks of guests. After the return, the 5 elders directly reported to Yim with their injuries. What they didn't expect was that Lord Yim didn't blame them, but as if nothing had happened, they asked them to invite Shichibukai, such as Bullet, Red Earl, and Desiro. And bring all the high-level people from Marine. So there is such a scene. The pirates came here, the holy place in this holy place, which has never happened in the memory of the 5 elders. Not only the pirates, but even Marine and his party have never been here. Mr. Garp, Mr. Sengoku, Marshal Sora, have you been here before? Green Bull didn't dare to speak loudly in such a place, and asked the 3 of Garp in a low voice. We haven't been here either. Even if it comes to Mariajoy, it's just a report between the powers and the 5 old men. The 3 Garp couldn't help but laugh when seeing the Green Bull looking nervous, shook their heads and replied. This time even Sakazuki was surprised, and the old guys had never been here. Whether it's Garp, Sengoku, or the oldest qualified empty space. The celestial dragons are all top secret, and even Marshal Marine is not qualified to get in touch. Flowers Sengoku also said with a serious face. Advertisement. As for Lord Yim, I heard from the 5 elders not long ago, and I didn't know that there was such a person before. I don't even know that this void throne that no one can sit on has a master. The group of them was also surprised by surprise. I am also a little bit ambitious about the Lord Yim who is about to meet. And almost everyone at the scene was a little nervous. 5 elders, this time we gathered all of us, what's the matter? Lord Yim, exactly. A man who is like a god, we Marine executives don't even know. At this time, Sakazuki couldn't help but ask the 5 elders. And 5 elders shook his head. No comment, Sakazuki. We can't reveal anything until Lord Yim comes out. The 5th elder squinted Sakazuki and said. Akainu Sakazuki asks too much, and here is the discussion about Lord I am, what these people think. Seeing that the 5 elders kept silent, even Marshal Marine could only helpless at this time. The curious people also saw that the 5 elders did not reveal anything, but looked at the army commander Kong. This world government and Marine are only veterans under 5 elders, he should know a little bit. Kong hugged his arms and was startled when he saw the eyes cast by the crowd. The 5 elders asked themselves if they didn't say anything. Actually, you have heard about longevity a long time ago, but you didn't think of it. Kong pondered for a while, then looked up at the crowd and said. Have you heard of it a long time ago? Sakazuki, Admiral and others were all taken aback. Red Earl Redfield and Bullet also thought curiously. Yes, if you don't look for it seriously, it's normal that you won't think of it for a while. The op fruit ability is always given to this person in Pangu City. Kong didn't sell anything, and said directly to Sakazuki and others. I see. Sakazuki and the 3 Admiral, Garp, and Sengoku all suddenly realized. The secret of Im's immortality turned out to be this. 0. Chapter 145. Yim shows up, marrying a white lion. Advertisement. Kong didn't know much, just noticed this in his career. At his age, he already knew that 2 op fruit had entered Mariajoy. In addition, there is a legend of such a character in Pangu City. As for the existence of Lord Yimu, I only know this, and I don't know the rest. Even before the 5 elders revealed it, I didn't know the name of the adult. Kong finished speaking and shook his head. I guessed it based on a little clue. But the point of longevity is inseparable. How can there be so much longevity in the world? Op fruit being sent to Mariajoy itself is very doubtful. Now it was Bullet, the Red Earl Letterfield and others had doubts. Op fruit ability. That ability to create a special field. 660. I know this. I also fought against this ability a few decades ago, but it's not that strong. The ability is strange. What's special in this? Red Earl Ledfield squinted his eyes and recalled. Back then, the match didn't kill the capable person, and it was easy to win. Obviously Red Earl didn't know what op fruit was special. The others haven't answered yet, and the red-haired Shanks said abruptly. Op fruit ability. The highest level of fruit ability is to have the ageless operation that can give mankind eternal life. Once this operation is performed, the capable person will die, so it is called the ultimate devil fruit. The redhead Shanks directly revealed the answer to everyone. The Red Earl Letterfield and Disilo, who didn't know, all showed surprised expressions. In short, this fruit ability can make people live forever. Eudemon species and bat fruit can only allow people to suck blood to maintain their vigorous life, and they must continue to suck high-quality blood to maintain longevity. And op fruit still has such a powerful ability. Surprise. Letterfield's eyes narrowed. This Lord Yimu has sacrificed op fruit ability many times. I am afraid it is to maintain the peak state of the body. This Yim is also likely to be in the strongest state now. Advertisement. Bullet was equally surprised, even greedy in his heart. Immortality, who doesn't want to? Everyone was silent for a moment, thinking differently. Later, Bullet looked at the red-haired Shanks again. Hontaro, Roger was a group favorite when he was intern on the boat, but his identity seems very difficult. You know all the secret things about op fruit. I didn't expect op fruit to have such an effect. Then what is your identity, Red Taro? Bullet stared at the red-haired Shanks who had already taken off his hood, and asked. From the words of 5 elders, Shanks is still related to celestial dragons. As soon as the words came out, everyone except 5 elders looked at the red-haired Shanks. Especially Sengoku, Sora, Sakazuki, Admiral and others are also very curious, even a little dignified. Redhead Shanks, a big pirate who has been one of the 4 emperors for several years. Stayed on Roger's ship, and even knew the great treasure of the Ultimate Island. If one of the 4 emperors is most likely to become the real One Piece, it must be Shanks who has been a crew member of One Piece. However, it is such a character who can directly bypass Marine and meet 5 elders. This face is so terrible, no one believes it has nothing to do with celestial dragons. Your life experience, except for appearing on Roger's ship, seems to be blank before, and Marine can't investigate your origin. Shanks, I'm also curious about who you are. Sakazuki's new appointment, naturally holding the status of marshal, has done various investigations and read various files. 4 emperors are also included. The true identity of the red-haired Shanks is too mysterious. Under the gaze of everyone, the 5 elders still kept silent and waited quietly. After the redhead Shanks was silent for a while, he opened his mouth, just about to speak. A neutral voice that couldn't be distinguished between men and women came out. He is my descendant. Hearing everyone's body suddenly stiffened, their faces were extremely solemn, and their postures couldn't help standing up a bit. Obviously, this is the godlike Lord Yim here. Advertisement. And the red-haired Shanks is actually the offspring of Yim. It's celestial dragons. Meet Master Yim. The 5 elders immediately knelt on the ground, shouting, respectful. Before any thoughts arose, everyone heard the shouts of the 5 elders before they looked up, and between the 2 flights of stairs, a figure had appeared there. A tall and pointed hat, a gorgeous gown, and a long tail behind him. With so many powerhouses present, such as Marine Garp, Sengoku, the 3 of them, Red Earl Letterfield, Bullet, etc., everyone did not find out how Yim appeared. Moreover, he couldn't even look at his appearance. Everyone watched. Yim turned around and walked up the stairs step by step, and walked to the void throne. Although everyone couldn't see their faces just now, they could see Yim's pair of dark golden eyes. Hawkeye, Bullet, Red Earl Rider 0.0 Field are all serious and dignified, with awe-inspiring heart. Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, Kizaru and others couldn't help being shocked. At the same time, in shock, everyone looked at the red-haired Shanks in surprise. What a powerful breath, it's simply a suppression at the level of life. For a moment, with their strength, they felt that their life and death were completely controlled by Yim. Strong, too strong, strong exaggeration. Sure enough, the old monster 800 years ago will definitely not be weaker than the guy from the White Lion Xia Xing. De Solo was the most unbearable at this moment. It can be said that in this palace, he is the weakest now. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It's already at the level of the White Lion. One of his guys who have been on the One Piece Roger's ship since he was a child is really celestial dragons, or a descendant of Yim. Sengoku, Garp, Kong and others also looked shocked. But the aura on Yim's body, judging from the strength of Garp and others, is simply terrifying. The moment I saw Yim, it was like facing the White Lion Xia Xing, it was so terrifying. The horrible breath and the eyes are so similar to Mihawk's, even 1-0 thought it was. Red Earl Letterfield was shocked in his heart. This is Lord Yim who has lived for hundreds of years, this breath. These eyes and the invisible look are nothing. Chapter 146. Redhead and Hawkeye are both descendants of Im. Advertisement. Garp, Red Earl Letterfield, Bullet and others all understand. In the case of Roger, it is impossible not to know the true identity of the red-haired Shanks. Knowing that celestial dragons return to the ship, this can be intriguing. I don't know if Roger is confident or the red-haired Shanks impressed Roger. In any case, this is an explosive news that is enough to shock the world. And at this time, while climbing the stairs and heading for the void throne, Yim began to speak in an indifferent tone. The 5 elders also stood up after seeing the salute at this time, and the attention of others suddenly shifted. 38 years ago, there was a battle to destroy the rocks. You should know that many people were also witnesses. What you don't know is that this is actually the new generation of my clan in the Valley of Gods where they are performing sacrificial rituals. Im walked slowly and unhurriedly, and began to speak. Everyone couldn't help but listen quietly. Even the 5 elders didn't expect Master Yim to talk so much to these people. The Rock's boy, he focused on the descendants of my clan at the time, and went to try to intercept and kill him directly. Marine and the little doll of Roger, the pirate at the time of 27, were forced to join forces to kill rocks in order to remove the rocks that would only destroy the world. Unfortunately, I still couldn't take it, and it threatened my descendants, so I sent 5 elders to take action until I killed rocks. Disolo, the 3 Admiral listened to this story and couldn't help swallowing. To be precise, even the shot Garp doesn't know that this is the offspring of Yim. At this moment, from Im's perspective, he couldn't help but be surprised. Marines also understood why the Valley of God was so mighty in the first place. Dare to Love is the descendant of Im. So, one of the descendants of this new generation is the red-haired Shanks. Red Earl Letterfield couldn't help but began to ask. Yimu didn't shy away from them, and started directly from the Battle of the Valley of Gods. Ha ha ha. Yim chuckled lightly, walked step by step, ascended to the highest position, and sat down on the throne of the void. Advertisement. The dark golden eyes stared at the people below, and the majestic aura naturally spread to the entire palace. Garp, Sengoku, Marine and Bullet, Red Earl, Disolo and others immediately felt the heavy pressure on their minds. I'm looked at everyone and continued talking. No, it's not Shanks but Mihawk. Yimyu's words were astonishing, and everyone was immediately shocked. What? The Green Bull's eyeballs almost fell in shock. Others are even more shocked. No one thought that it was Mihawk, the eagle-eyed Mihawk known as the strongest swordsman. Redhead Shanks lowered his head and didn't know what he was thinking, and said nothing. The 5 elders were standing there, watching everyone shocked. Yes, it's Mihawk. Shanks, it's just a person of my clan who was born with a slave, so his hair is red, and he is a half-mother to Mihawk, but his blood isn't pure enough. I'm was above the throne, staring at the bottom indifferently, sitting straight and talking about this matter. The people below were shocked, and suddenly they didn't know what to say. This is simply the news in the big news. Shanks, although they are not pure, they are considered to be one of the celestial dragons, but they are not qualified to stay in my clan. The mother who gave birth to him also died in the hands of rocks in the Valley of the Gods, and so did his father. He died. After the battle, Shanks, who was left unattended, was taken aboard by Roger in the Valley of the Gods. I'm seemed to say one more thing that didn't matter. This matter can naturally be checked in his eyes, which is why the red-haired Shanks has this privilege in the world government. At that time, Hawkeye Mihawk was recruited. These Shichibukai were carefully investigated. The origin of Hawkeye Mihawk is not related to Mariajoy. The new Marine Marshal Sakazuki also questioned at this time. If it is celestial dragons, there is no reason why Marine will not know it, just like Doflamingo. That's right, when the Shichibukai system was implemented, the first selection was made through multiple investigations and screenings. Advertisement. Sengoku also said that he was the executive officer who implemented the Shichibukai system at the time. Of course, this is because Mihawk is not qualified to be a member of my clan, although his blood is pure. As a descendant of my Yim, if you want to have my glory, you must be born with Conqueror's Haki, so Mihawk is not qualified to stay in Mariajoy. I'm said softly, but there was no doubt in his words. This is also the reason why none of his descendants are in Mariajoy until now. He is of pure blood, and he bears Conqueror's Haki, which is indispensable. On the contrary, with my blood, Conqueror's Haki's outstanding Shanks has the right to talk directly with Mariajoy, 5 elders, and even me. Eagle eyes. No wonder Mihawk has such eyes, and red-haired Shanks, who also have the blood of celestial dragons, even the most powerful descendant of celestial dragons. And the red-haired Shanks are also strong swords. It seems that they are all related to the blood of the Yim clan. Inheriting this talent, Conqueror's Haki is also powerful and outrageous, surpassing general cognition. Everyone was shocked again, and they were very surprised. No matter what everyone thinks, the talent of White Lion Xia Xing is even more terrifying. Especially Conqueror's Haki, judging from the age comparison, it is even more terrifying than I'm. Bullet also gave a black smile. His clan is eligible to stay even if he meets both of these conditions at the same time. No one is comparable to the White Lion. At the same time, I also sighed that Yim's casual disclosures turned out to be very big news. Remember when I was on Roger's ship? Worthy of being an 800-year-old monster. It turns out that this is Hontaro's life experience, and the people on the boat just said that this is the little intern brought back by the captain. At this moment, everyone understood thoroughly. I finally figured out the life experience of the red-haired Shanks. Even Garp didn't know that the baby Roger took away was celestial dragons with 660 blood of Im. Hawkeye Mihawk can become the world's #1 swordsman, and his talent accounts for a large proportion. So, is it possible that this White Lion Xia Xing is also a talent brought by blood? Chapter 147. Im's Arms Conquerors. Advertisement. Yim was just talking about a small thing, his tone was indifferent, and his heart was extremely indifferent. In terms of his life spanning hundreds of years, these episodes are not even counted as episodes. After listening, Sengoku, Sora, Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, Kizaru and others were shocked. The same was true for Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield, which was deeply shocked. Garp lowered his head and said nothing, not knowing what he was thinking. I'm glanced at Garp lightly. I still know Garp in my heart. A guy who can drive Roger into desperation several times has been keeping a low profile. Even the battle against Xia Xing can be seen in his eyes. At the same time, below, Shanks doesn't care when it comes to red hair from his own background. These things have already been known to themselves, and it doesn't matter if they know it to these people. At this time, the red-haired Shanks even wanted to know how Yim would deal with the White Lion and start a terrifying war again. What do you want to do? Isn't this farce supposed to end? I can guarantee that the White Lion Xia Xing will not cause trouble or threaten Mariajoy. Shanks's face was solemn, and he directly raised his head and said to Yim. When the people gathered here, apart from dealing with the White Lion Xia Xing, I really couldn't think of anything else. And Yim's mind is indeed the same, and he smiled without denying. 70 years ago, there was a person like this who said the same thing to me, but in the end he still stirred the sky above the sea. He is rocks. The current White Lion is a replica of rocks. I said slowly, even propping up his face with one hand, looking at Shanks. The current White Lion does not have the heart to fight for hegemony, but his existence is already even more dangerous than rocks. It has threatened the world government and the majesty of the gods. It is not your redhead Shanks that can guarantee it. Hearing Im's words, the red-haired Shanks was speechless for a while. Indeed, can it be guaranteed that Xia Xing will not compete for hegemony in the future? No one is sure about this. But Shanks thought of the lazy look of the white lion Xia Xing. Compared with 5 elders and Marine, the people have never looked like a killer. They still think that Xia Xing is not that kind of person. At this time, Shanks hadn't continued speaking. Red Earl and Bullet spoke one after another. Do you have a way to deal with the white lion Xia Xing? Earl Hong's eyes flashed, and he asked solemnly. Hundreds of years old guy, maybe there is a way. Just do you want to go to the muddy water of Zhao? Advertisement. You are indeed very strong, but compared with the white lion, there is still a gap. Bullet didn't want to do anything with the white lion Xia Xing anymore. The shadow hadn't come out yet, so he could not help but snorted. Everyone at Marine was silent, but the 5 elders cast their eyes and looked at Bullet. This guy who didn't know how to live or die, the behavior just now was disrespectful to Lord Yim. Yes, I'm smiled coldly. Then the body sitting on the void throne erupted out of the extremely powerful Conqueror's Haki, and the faint golden color caused a strong wind in the palace. And Conqueror's Haki also enveloped Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield in an instant. When the two reacted, their eyes throbbed, but it was too late. Boom. Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield were directly pressed into the palace floor. The unparalleled impact even caused the entire palace to be shaken, causing an earthquake. The two bullets struggled to death, but it was of no use, and they were directly crushed in the ground under the floor. Facing this sudden scene, Garp, Sengoku, Kong, Sakazuki, Kizaru and other 3 Admiral were all shocked. Even the 5 elders' eyes widened. Isn't this the armed Conqueror's Haki used by the white lion Xia Xing? Everyone was shocked with horror on their faces. The faint golden light, the wave of suppression. I'm really deserves to be an old monster who has lived for more than 800 years, and Conqueror's Haki of the white lion Xia Xing is completely on the same level. It's not like the half-armed Conqueror's Haki of 5 elders, which can only be used for blessing, but it is truly solid like Xia Xing. I just don't know, can imitate the ability to use the fruit. Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield, who were crushed in the ground, had no resistance at all, and even spilled their blood, no one worried about them at all. All were deeply shocked by Yim's strength. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Green Bull even yelled exaggeratedly, exclaiming in shock. The power of horror is exactly the same as Xia Xing. Advertisement. Even Red Earl Letterfield, a legendary pirate who had recovered his strength, had no power to fight back and couldn't break free. And, this is just Conqueror's Haki of this old monster. I'm blind now, is my vision so narrow? Fujitora also hung a knife and said in shock. Just now I thought it was impossible for anyone to have Conqueror's Haki in the terrifying state of Xia Xing, and I saw it now. The old monster's shot is really amazing. Very scary. Kizaru Pelusolino also touched his forehead and said. Mariajoy, the real power behind the world government is so terrible. This breath, this form, isn't it the kind of armed Conqueror's Haki that Xia Xing has? The 3 of Garp, Kong, and Sengoku did not speak, and their pupils were shaking while watching the ground being pushed out of the pit, in which the Red Earl Letterfield and Bullet were firmly suppressed, the kings. Feeling the power of Im's Conqueror's Haki, Akainu Sakazuki's face also began to change. In this case, there may be a certain chance to deal with the White Lion. From the previous battles, you can see that the aftermath is terrible. Even the 5 elders who have been serving for Im's endorsements are shocked. It is the first time to see Im-sama really take action and feel the power of Im Conqueror's Haki. It's not that Xia Xing will lose, or Yim will lose. There was a sense of worry in Garp's eyes. Im's armed Conqueror's Haki is even comparable to the white lion Xia Xing. Sure enough, even the strong like Bullet and Red Earl didn't have the power to resist. It is to set off a terrible war again, and the confrontation between the two people's strength, what kind of damage will it cause to the world? Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Sengoku's heart is like this at this time, shocked and Yim's strength are also worried. The White Lion boy, it seems that the trouble will continue. 2 people with such a terrifying strength fought against each other. No wonder, it seems normal for those in power who have lived for hundreds of years to have this kind of strength. The 3 of them were shocked by Im's Conqueror's Haki, and thought to themselves. Chapter 148, an 800-year-old monster. Advertisement. The 5 elders stood in the forefront, watching with throbbing eyes as they were suppressed in the pit by Conqueror's Haki, speechless, unable to struggle, with painful and distorted faces of Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield. I was secretly shocked and inexplicably shocked. As expected, Lord Yim's Conqueror's Haki was also at the same level as the White Lion Xia Xing. Look, how does my Conqueror's Haki compare to the White Lion Xia Xing? Yimyu's dark golden eyes looked at the elder, and asked faintly. Obviously, this was just the weapon Conqueror's Haki he used at will. The great elder hesitated looking at the pale golden light curtain that wrapped the 2 great pirates. Others may still feel that the gap is not clear, but it can still be distinguished by the strength of the great elder. The current powerful armed conqueror still has a clear level with the White Lion. Needless to say, I know the answer. So what now? I'm looked at the expression of the great elder, knowing that it was not enough, and then chuckled lightly. Conqueror's Haki, an even more powerful weapon, is surging, and the golden light has radiated everyone in. But the force of suppression still acts on Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield. There was a bang, and another violent earthquake came under the loud noise. And the Bullet too directly spit out a big mouthful of blood, and the face that was directly pressed was distorted, and 660's eyes were full of horror. Garp, Sengoku, and Kong were a little unbearable at this time. These two famous guys on the sea, embarrassed and inhuman at this time, became the objects of Im's experiment. The old monster who has lived for hundreds of years is really indifferent to humanity. Others swallowed their throats involuntarily, and cold sweat broke out. The breath of Im is terrible. There is still a gap. The five elders certainly don't care about the life and death of the pirates. Feeling this terrifying conquerors, the elder answered honestly. At this time, the horror on the breath, Yim is stronger, but the actual strength is still not as strong as the white lion Xia Xing. A ray of red light flashed through Yimu's dark golden eyes. Advertisement. Not at the scene, only the naked eye can understand Conqueror's Haki of the white lion. Unexpectedly, at this level of intensity, the elder still thinks it is not as good as the white lion. This little guy is really unexpected. Im also secretly said in his heart. Then, the more terrifying Conqueror's Haki broke out. Under the rumbling sound, the entire Pangu city was enveloped by a pale golden light curtain. The terrifying aura instantly darkened the sky, with dark clouds and lightning bursts. Postgraduate entrance examination, Sengoku, Sora, Sakazuki, Admiral and others watched Im sitting on the void throne indifferently, and the unimaginable Haki broke out. Under the thunder, Bullet and Red Count stared in horror, and instantly banged. It fell on the two of them like 10,000 mountains. The entire red line on Mariajoy immediately shook. Red Earl Letterfield and Bullet's eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes, and the skin all over their bodies were cracked. In the blood burst, they lost consciousness and fainted. The entire palace was covered with dust. Im retracted Conqueror's Haki, and with a wave of his hand, the palace unexpectedly wanted it to return to normal. Everyone, including five elders, was even a little trembling, dumbfounded. Another Conqueror's Haki that is as powerful as the white lion. Just like the three elders at the time, they couldn't stand the pressure at all, causing both Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield to lose consciousness. It's about the same level as the white lion. The elder wiped his sweat, and said respectfully, bending over to Lord Yim. I am quietly staring at the people below, and sighed in silence for a while. In every era in the world, Tianzhao may appear, rocks, Roger. White Lion Xia Xing, is it the evildoer of this era? My Conqueror's Haki is not as good as Xia Xing, at least in terms of talent, not as good as him. Yim's tone was still so indifferent, as if Xia was talking about a trivial thing. Im, who had lived for at least 800 years, completely made everyone unable to understand what he was thinking. It took me 100 years to realize the threshold of armed Conqueror's Haki. The talent is not even as good as that of rocks. It took more than 700 years of life to get to this level. How long did the little doll of the white lion Xia Xing spend? How old is he? It's only about 20 years old, and he can be with me for that long. It's really a monster of the times. Advertisement. Im said to himself like nothing happened. In my heart, I became more and more interested in Xia Xing. The others below all looked dull, and their hearts were even more shocked. After listening to Im's words, I realized that the immortal life that I have never believed in the bottom of my heart really exists. Im has really lived for at least 800 years. White Lion, I took this code name. Sengoku muttered to himself with regret, and then gritted his teeth with Garp and Kong, and saw the surprise in the other's heart. Im, who had been born for so long, even took the initiative to admit that he was not as good as Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki. The true god, Lord Yimu said such things, but it wasn't for them to listen to. It's just the throbbing and fear in his eyes that can't be concealed. Moreover, the old monster who has lived for so long, what do you want to do to deal with Xia Xing? The redhead Shanks lowered his head, his face in shock was hard to see ultimate. Okay, get up, Lu Niu, treat them both. Sakazuki, Fujitora, Green Bull, and Kizaru were all shocked. I'm afraid, I really can't stop Yim. If this guy stayed in Marine, how brilliant it would be now. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Hearing what Yim was ashamed of, the five elders were not as shocked secretly as others did, but knelt down and said in a little panic. Green Bull hurriedly took the lead, ran to the big pit and used his ability to cover the two of Bullet. Master Yim is invincible. The living gods. After the treatment of their abilities, the two opened their eyes and stood up under the words of Green Bull. But it is okay to wake up the two and recover to a certain degree. The evil spirits of the times, this is what Yim gave to the white lion Xia Xing. It is enough to see how much this single Conqueror's Haki values the strength of Xia Xing compared to the white lion Yim. He has a certain therapeutic ability, but the effect is not significant. Im didn't respond to this, but let the Green Bull wake up Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield. Red Earl Letterfield even clenched his fist secretly, even Xia Xing did not insult him like this. Chapter 149. To kill, you must first punish your heart. Advertisement. Although the two could barely stand up, they still had blood leaking from their mouths, and some of their bones were still broken. The Green Bull's abilities can only restore the surface, not the internal injuries, and it is fortunate that it is the two of them, otherwise, I am afraid that they are already dead and can't die anymore. At this time, Im looked at the people below and began to talk about the topic. You can't deal with Xia Xing, so don't blame you, I will solve this little doll. But before that, I still need to prepare a big gift for the white lion. This is also the reason why I called you to come. Marines Garp, Sengoku, Sakazuki and San Admiral were all in their hearts. Bullet and Red Earl Letterfield coughed, and at this time they opened their eyes wide and looked at Yim on the void throne. This is to deal with Xia Xing. Yim does not intend to use other means, just want to remove Xia Xing blindly. The five elders seemed to know what Yim meant for a long time, and stood in front respectfully, silently. But the red-haired Shanks suddenly raised his head and looked at Yim. Do you have to deal with Xia Xing? He is lazy and casual. Maybe there are other ways. Shanks, the redhead, had serious eyes and once again spoke out to persuade him. The start of war is too costly to the world. Im glanced at Shanks indifferently and waved his hand. Shanks could only shut his mouth with a sullen face and gritted his teeth. Before dealing with Xia Xing, I need to send him a big gift first. This is also the meaning of your coming here. Capture Whitebeard Newgate, Doflamingo, Black Arm Zephyr, Aokiji Kuzan, Pluton Rayleigh, and execute them all in public. As soon as Im finished speaking, the palace fell into silence. Garp, Sengoku, Admiral and others all seemed to choke their throats, looking at Yim above the throne with shocked eyes. He unexpectedly wanted to arrest all the members of the White Lion Alliance and execute them publicly. Now there is at least a little chance for relaxation. Once this is done, it will completely push Xia Xing into a complete opposite. Master Yim, are you really going to do this? Can you relax a bit? Kong was shocked, and couldn't help but speak out at this time. Even he did not want to start a war with the White Lion Alliance again. Others were even more surprised by Im's words and didn't know what to say. On the contrary, Sakari's, who had always been extreme, bowed his head and began to ponder. Keep doing it. You should do it. Relax. Why do we need to relax? The White Lion has more time to grow, until the time when it can't check and balance. Advertisement. I am indifferent voice came down. At least the White Lion Xia Xing, he is not a real enemy. You don't have to use war. Shanks, the redhead, said with a solemn expression. Yes, sir, might as well let us observe for a while. Kong took the opportunity to persuade again. I'm not here to discuss with you. Hongfa and Kong persuaded them to make Yim's voice cold. The five elders hurriedly turned back to Kong, red hair winking. This is Lord Yim's decision, so this old fellow Sora is going to die. Following Master Yim's orders, the elder hurriedly said loudly. Kong was motioned by the eyes of the five elders, and gritted his teeth and stopped speaking. The red hair was even more cold-hearted by Yim knowing that he couldn't persuade him anymore. Sengoku, Garp and others, who originally wanted to persuade, also died down. The hearts of everyone were awe-inspiring, shocking and inexplicable. I am afraid that this matter has been irreparable. Yim wanted to force Xia Xing to make a shot, and he still attacked Whitebeard and others first. It's just that they are not the White Lion Xia Xing, but Newgate and Rayleigh are not so easy to deal with. The average siege may have to pay an unimaginable price. Even if the five elders make 5 shots, I am afraid it is not so easy. On the contrary, Bullet was a little excited at this time. Red Earl Letterfield's expression was somber and he didn't express his opinion. In case, the White Lion Xia Xing doesn't care about their life and death, and after the public execution, it will only act as a shock to the pirates all over the world. On the contrary, the most threatening Xia Xing still has nothing to do. Marine New Marshal Sakazuki asked rhetorically at this time. This is indeed a possibility. Garp, Sengoku, and Kong all looked at Sakazuki, with an indescribable feeling in their eyes. You still discussed it, right? But I have to say that this is indeed a problem. For flowers advertisement. Master I am, what Sakazuki said has a certain truth. If the White Lion does not come, I am afraid our goal will not be achieved. The fifth elder also recognized these words and said. He will come. At this moment, Yim stood up, looked at the 20 rusty Madara swords on the stairs below, and continued to speak. If the White Lion lived for hundreds of years like me, this trick might not work. But he is less than 20 years old, and he has various concepts of conscience, good and evil, and kindness. I believe he will not let me down. In the indifferent tone as self-confidence, Yim's mind has become a demon for hundreds of years. These words also shocked everyone inexplicably. Yes, as long as you don't live to the end, you will still be shackled by your conscience after all. 0. Kong, Garp, Sengoku and others understood the real horror of Im at this time. It's no wonder that this is an old monster that has manipulated the world government for hundreds of years behind the scenes. The most terrifying thing is his eyes that see through human weakness and his attitude of disregarding the world. If you want to deal with Xia Xing, just go and find him for a duel. Why do you want to do it like this? This method does not meet your identity. Redhead Shanks spoke with a sullen face. Forcing the White Lion Xia Xing to take action, this is too much. Shanks, you have been in New World for so long, after all, you are still too young. Remember, for more than 800 years, I have summed up a sentence, that is to kill, you must first punish your heart. I chuckled and started to walk down. What should be said and what should be ordered has been said. After so many years, I should reappear in the vision of the world. Otherwise, world government, the majesty of the gods, any little pirate would dare to provoke. However, what Yim said directly made everyone below feel awe-inspiring. Watching Master Yim slowly walk down the stairs, turn around and leave. A chill came directly from the bottom of everyone's hearts. Killing, first punish the heart. The red-haired Shanks trembled, feeling terrible. The 5 elders knew Yim's dispositions a long time ago. Seeing Yim finish the meeting, saluted respectfully, and then looked at the Marines, Bullet, Red Earl and others. Everyone, do it. 0. Chapter 150. Can Conquerors integrate islands? Advertisement. In a blink of an eye, 7 days have passed since the World Government Coalition forces crusade against the White Lion Alliance. This time the battle shook the world, and White Lion Island has also become a truly transcendent force. An existence that made marine retreat, the pirates were fanatical, and many kingdoms were silent. Even celestial dragons dare not get close to this sea area. After all, the White Lion Xia Xing can speak, and will not miss any of Mariajoy's celestial dragons. Suddenly, White Lion Island has also become a holy land in the eyes of the pirates. Coupled with the peaceful attitude of White Lion Island, countless people flocked here. The big pirates who entered the new world at sea have come to make pilgrimages. Reporters from all over the world also came to broadcast and report. There are also a large number of other forces coming to wait and see. But without exception, they dare not get too close to Beishi Island, and can only stop the boat on the sea for various activities. Without permission, it would be impossible to approach White Lion Island, let alone land on it. The former Shichibukai's Don Quixote, Sand Crocodile, the Fishman Island, and the 9 Snake Island forces are constantly patrolling and guarding, for fear that someone will go in and disturb the White Lion. And Xia Xing's prestige has made everyone in the world stop watching. One person is enough to fight against the strongest human in the entire World Alliance, and this name makes the whole world feel trembling. The unwilling reporters or the big pirates can only apply to enter the White Lion Island obediently, and maybe they can pay their respects to the White Lion. The eyes of the whole world are gathered here at this time, and even some pirates have entered this sea area in order to avoid the pursuit of marine. Because this piece of marine is completely ruled by the White Lion's alliance, even the world government dare not intervene in it. That is on this day. Under the attention of Zhou Duo's ship in the world, a huge dragon appeared in the field of vision. Its 4 emperors, Kaido. The reporters on the ship all looked at the mighty dragon in the sky with amazement. Amidst the fog, the large fleet appeared in the eyes of everyone. The ships of the Beast's pirates and even the ships of the Whitebeard pirates are among them. Advertisement. That's a huge island dragged. Behind the ship, there is a huge island supported by pale yellow clouds, and there are huge chains on many ships that are pulling the island, and they are slowly coming over, and the speed is not slow. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. Reporters from all over the world and pirates from all over the world were all shocked and watched the scene before them in disbelief. Wano Kuni was shut in the country, and in the dangerous seas, these people couldn't recognize it. But in the other direction, several huge islands seemed to be superimposed, appearing in another direction in the sky. Even the ships are floating in the sky, following the island and flying over. What a masterpiece, it's like a big inland island has been moved over. The onlookers on White Lion Island all had their eyes protruding, and they were all horrified. As the distance got closer and closer, everyone finally saw the group of people carrying these islands clearly. Whitebeard Newgate and the captains of the 14th Division former Admiral Aokiji Kuzan, the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, Mihawk, Kaido, the big sign of the 3 disasters, and the 6 powers. Here are the legendary pirates, Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, 4 Emperors Big Mom and the 4 Emperors Big Mom, which is Black Arm Zephyr, and a single person appeared in everyone's eyes. 4 Emperors, there are several legendary characters, not to mention the original Shichibukai and Admiral. This shocking impact, coupled with visual oppression, simply made these reporters and the pirates kneel down in worship. And this kind of terrifying lineup is floating these islands. You don't need to think that this is ordered by the White Lion Xia Xing. I am afraid it is still used to expand the White Lion Island. Some people have already screamed, and they have recognized the several islands on the Golden Lion Shiki, which are amazingly owned by all nations. Even Big Mom's base camp Cake Island is among them. Seeing the shocking scene in front of me approaching, everyone can be regarded as reacting. If you want to expand the White Lion Island, these inland islands are there, so how can they be integrated together? Is it just a piece of cake? But it's good to put it together. Once it falls into the sea and the island meets the island, it will be a landslide and tsunami. Just when everyone is confused. Knowing that the island has been brought over, Xia Xing also put down the game console and walked out of the villa in the center of the island. Look, it's the White Lion who has come out. Advertisement. The reporters had sharp eyes, and all of a sudden they saw Xia Xing, who was struggling, walked up to a rock and sat down paralyzed. The pirates also looked at Xia Xing enthusiastically. This is the strongest person in the world. Everyone has seen Xia Xing's terrible strength in the live broadcast. I didn't move here all at once. Xia Xing looked at the Wano Kuni land under Kaido and said to herself. The white bear on the Luo ship also scratched his head and stood up. It is now the red man next to Xia Xing. Oh no, red bear. This is 1/5 of Wano Kuni, that section. Obviously, Kaido Tengen held up, and the island dragged by the ship was cut in half. It seemed that it was impossible to transport it directly at once. And watching the sweat on Kaido's dragon head, maintaining Tengen also consumes a lot of energy. Half of the island of Wano Kuni is approaching, and the floating island of Golden Lion Shiki is still behind. Marco took the lead at this time and flew over with Lan Yan and reported. Your Excellency White Lion, the entire Wano Kuni is too big, you can only ship these first. It's okay, wait for Shiki to get the Cake Island and hand it over to me. Xia Xing stretched out and said. I haven't been out of the game after playing the game for several days, and now it's not bad to play Fusion Island 0.0. The Golden Lion Shiki didn't seem to be able to get too much at once. Afterwards, Marco returned to the ship and informed Newgate, Aokiji and others. Everyone suddenly became curious about how the White Lion Xia Xing would expand the island. At first I thought it was done with the help of Golden Lion Fruit's ability, but it seemed that this was not the plan. Including the people from all over the world admiring below are all wondering and curious. After finally waiting for the Golden Lion Haki floating near 10 islands to approach, everyone finally knew the answer, and almost fell to the ground with their jaws in shock. I saw Xia Xing stood up, and burst out from her body with an incomparably terrifying aura. Armed Conqueror's Haki is like a curtain of light flowing, and like a fluid, changing directly to completely envelop the huge island of Wano-kuni and dozens of islands such as Cake Island. Chapter 151. New Rewards, 5 New Devil Fruits. Advertisement. Marine Admiral Chapter 151. After being directly wrapped by Xia Xing's extremely powerful Conqueror's Haki, it held up all the island land on the edge of the island. Even if the powerful breath did not oppress everyone, everyone felt palpitations. Even Kaido's huge dragon head is full of cold sweat, and his eyes are wide open. Looking at the pale golden light curtain that radiates more than 10 kilometers, I am shocked and I am glad that I am not messed up. This is really terrible. The Golden Conqueror's Haki directly took the island to the White Lion Island. The reporters and the pirates were shocked and went limp or knelt down, whispering in their mouths. This is a miracle. This is a god. Whitebeard Newgate and the others also watched solemnly. Xia Xing smiled faintly. Under his mind, he directly controlled the island to fall, and unloaded the force so that the huge collision force did not burst out. Conqueror's Haki, in the golden light, activated the ability to heat the fruit, and directly melted the edge, so that the island and the island were directly merged like welding -27. Then it cooled down directly with the ability of frozen fruit. Under the action of the armed Conqueror's Haki, even the sea surface did not stir up a bigger wave, and everyone did not even feel anything on the sea surface. Just like this, one after another, under the control of Xia Xing, Conqueror's Haki was fused and welded with the White Lion Island. During this period, even people who hadn't noticed on the original island didn't notice it, couldn't feel the vibration, and the potential energy was completely absorbed by Conqueror's Haki of Xia Xing. It's really a miracle. The White Lion Xia Xing's methods are really unimaginable horror. Aokiji Kuzan slapped his mouth, not knowing how to exclaim. Whitebeard Newgate laughed, and Marco and his group swallowed even more. Golden Lion Shiki, Pluton Rayleigh, Zephyr are even more stunned. Conqueror's Haki can not only be used to suppress and injure the enemy, but it can even transport 10 huge islands. Not to mention the Cake Islands of IWC, Wano-kuni alone is already covered by the sky, like a continent. However, Xia Xing's face is not red or panting, and there is no pressure, even looking at his face is like playing a game. Welding these islands is just playing. Indeed, Xia Xing's face even showed the excitement when playing games. In a few clicks, these islands were all welded together using hot fruit fusion, and then armed with conquerors to rectify the foundation below, and after various reinforcements were condensed. Advertisement. Xia Xing took a look at the island he had personally integrated and expanded with satisfaction. Hey, if that's the case, when everything is transported over, the super tsunami won't be afraid of sinking. Xia Xing laughed and clapped her hands. The white bear on the side trembled, and couldn't stand it anymore. The area of White Lion Island has been increased several times in just a few minutes, and there are also various buildings on it. For example, Cake Island exudes a tempting taste. And the people on the island have not moved here yet. Let's go. First go to these places in Wangwo to see if there are any delicious ones. Xia Xing smiled and asked Bai Xiong to move to his recliner, wanting to float over it directly as a chair. At this time, Whitebeard Newgate, Rayleigh, Golden Lion Shiki, and Throat Swallowed Wildly, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin with shocked faces were all amazed, carefully looking at the welded White Lion Island. At this moment, Xia Xing just sat on the chair that Bai Xiong brought. The system prompt sounded unexpectedly. The sign in terrain changes and becomes a special sign in location, which increases the value. Reward host 1000 attribute points. Xia Xing was startled, and was rewarded for fighting an island. Then click on Conqueror's Haki first. There is no hesitation, Xia Xing is directly added to Conquerors. Mainly, this ability is too in line with my own taste, I am too lazy to move, and I am used to it. Secondly, when Conqueror's Haki uses other abilities, it will also give other abilities a super blessing. For example, Armament Haki on Conquerors was obviously only added a little bit. After using Conqueror's Haki, it was also as tough as adding a few thousand points. The same is true for other fruit abilities. But it's still a few levels worse when used alone. When the instruction is reached, all the bonus attribute points are added to Conquerors in an instant. Xia Xing's Conqueror's attribute points also came to 5,000. Congratulations to host Conqueror's Haki for reaching 5,000, the rewards are open, and you get 5 new Devil Fruit abilities. Advertisement. Paramesha, Momo Fruit, Paramesha, Gravity Fruit, Paramesha, Lion Fruit, Logia, Thunder Fruit, Logia, Dark Fruit. Next, the system once again rewards 5 fruit abilities, and they are all extremely powerful abilities. If other people are extremely happy to acquire one of these abilities, Xia Xing doesn't feel much about it, and points the remaining attributes to all of them. These abilities are just a little more convenient for Xia Xing, and they don't have much effect. However, after one point, the soaring Conqueror's Haki surged again. The amplitude is too large, and it will overflow and burst out again. Although Xia Xing's rapid response was controlled, the few seconds still caused an impact. In everyone's eyes, Xia Xing just sat on a chair and seemed to be about to leave directly. After a few seconds, the terrifying Conqueror's Haki burst out suddenly. Conqueror's Haki, which is deeper and more terrifying than the previous pale gold color, burst out with Xia Xing as a circle under an unconscious control. In an instant, the heavens and the earth changed. The entire sea area seemed to be wailing, and the sea was surging back and forth. The thunder flashed in the sky, and the sound of rumbling sounded. The powerful hurricane has brought it and blows in all directions. The white bear next to Xia Xing rolled his eyes and fainted. A large number of people on the islands and in the ships on the ocean fainted to death in an instant, and they continued to limp with their thumps. Under the horrible breath, those who could resist a little leaned over on the ground, the ship's board. Even the 3 plagues, 4 generals and the others couldn't help but lie down on the swaying ship, with cold sweat on their faces. This is just unconscious dissemination. It's the end of the world immediately. It's stronger again. Whitebeard, Newgate, Rayleigh, Shiki, Zephyr, these people blocked Conqueror's ripples and hurricanes with their hands, and called out in horror. Although it is not armed, Conqueror's Haki bursts out. But obviously, it has been much stronger than before. Even under the pressure of such undifferentiated aura, their spirits feel hard to support. Chapter 152, Whitebeard and others are surrounded. Advertisement. This Conqueror's Haki is more than a bit stronger. It seems that there is also the fluctuation of lion fruit. Xia Xing has realized a kind of fruit ability. Golden Lion Shiki had an incredible face and smacked his tongue secretly. Even more certain, Xia Xing will use Conqueror's Haki to imitate some fruit abilities. He is stronger again, is there any reason for this? Even Pluton Rayleigh was stunned and said with a sigh. In any case, it is a good thing that the White Lion becomes stronger, and the surrounding seas will also become more and more peaceful. Zephyr didn't think so much, although he was shocked, he still smiled. And Kaido and Charlotte Linlin broke down in a cold sweat. And Kurozumi Orochi, who was still wounded on Beast's pirates, screamed in horror. There really is such a terrifying person. This power, this. Kurozumi screamed, recalling how the 3 plagues and others had told Wanokuni and others along the way, he couldn't make a sound at all. On the ship of Beast's pirates, Denjiro and others also followed first. Watching the pirates falling down one by one next to them, looking at the golden light emitting figure on the White Lion Island in horror. At this moment, they fully knew what kind of existence it was. The resistance to Wanokuni's relocation has also completely dissipated. It seems that this is not a bad thing. Lord Odin's founding wish also seems to have hope. Denjiro was shaken in a cold sweat by the deterrent force, but he still thought of this in his mind. A few seconds later, Conqueror's Haki that had enveloped the audience suddenly disappeared. All those who were still standing breathed a sigh of relief. But there are still a lot of powerful people who threw down and fainted one after another. At this moment, the vision of heaven and earth also slowly dissipated, and the sun appeared again, immediately causing the 3 plagues, the 4 general stars, and Doflamingo and others to feel like a world away. Xia Xing scratched her head in embarrassment, using Conqueror's Haki to drag the white bear back. Then I wanted to look at Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Rayleigh and others. It's a bit confiscated. Advertisement. Xia Xing smiled. None of the personnel suffered internal injuries or deaths, but most of them fainted. Immediately began to flash people, dragged Brother by and rushed to the Cake Island area. Big Mom also reacted at this time, and hurriedly took Katakuri, Parasparrow and others to follow. When I saw the White Lion Xia Xing, I just came to find something to eat, but I had to go up and compliment it. Whitebeard Newgate and Shiki were also left on the scene. Rayleigh and others were dumbfounded. I just fainted, don't worry about it. Whitebeard grinned grinningly, and directly waved his hand. I have to go to the waters of all nations, and the remaining islands can be moved over soon. Golden Lion Shiki also gave a ha-ha, and set off again when Big Mom came back. Naturally, Rayleigh and others would go there again to prevent accidents. Wanokuni still has not moved back half, so I have to go again. Kuzan stroked his hair and looked at Kaido, who was still in shock and sweating. Yes, let's go and move back quickly. Kaido was also agitated, and said quickly, and asked Jack, Quinn and others to turn around quickly and go again. Everyone knew that Kaido was really frightened this time. Indeed, Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki is also strong this time, it is simply exaggerated and incredibly powerful. Soon, while Kaido was a little apprehensive, I urged Beast's pirates to set off again. Aokiji Kuzan, Hawkeye Mahawk, Whitebeard Newgate and their subordinates Marco, Ace, Vista and others set sail again. On the other side, Golden Lion Shiki was also waiting on the Big Mom boat, and then set off again. After they leave, many people from all over the world also woke up and were once again deeply shocked, leaving behind a deep memory that will never be forgotten in their lifetime. The first batch of Beishi Island merged smoothly, and the area expanded no longer doubled or doubled. Exclamation mark. Quote. It has become a small continent. The original inhabitants of the island had already notified and accepted it quickly. Subsequently, under the notice of Jinbei, Hancock and others, the Fishmen Island and the Nine Snake Island were also collectively relocated. Advertisement. Hancock delineated an area on the island, prohibiting men other than Xia Xing from entering, as an area for accommodating the Amazons on the island of Nine Snake. The Fishmen Island also directly moved most of the seabed islands to the seabed under the White Lion Island. The island has also set aside an area as a paradise for fish people, opening up a direct passage to the kingdom of fish people under the sea. The Murloc princess Shirahoshi also boarded the White Lion Island and saw the blue sky that she had never seen in her life. Xia Xing didn't care about dividing 2 areas, and then calmed down the super tsunami caused by the war. White Lion Island was not collapsed by the turbulent ocean current, and then it entered a period of peace in daily life. The people of Wano Kuni, the various races of the nations, including the Murlocs, and White Lion Island immediately became lively. Also because of the deterrence of Xia Xing, the islands have always been in a peaceful environment, accepting each other. Xia Xing is even more enjoyable. And this lazy and casual, salted fish's character was also thoroughly understood by the people on the island. Newgate's eyes condensed, and he stood on the Moby DK and pulled out the clouds. This sentence also spread from Doflamingo's mouth. Whitebeard Newgate and the crew, Kaido and his beasts pirates, and Aokiji Kuzan, Hakai Mahawk arrived at Wano Kuni and were about to use their powers to pull the last half back. Quote. Beats 5 elders didn't make the White Lion so excited, but the game can be. At this time, Kong, Garp, Sengoku, Red Earl Letterfield, Desaro and others have appeared in the field of vision, leading many marines, and even Mariajoy soldiers. These things naturally also let Doflamingo, Whitebeard Newgate and others know through the subordinates' contact room. Whitebeard Newgate and his party looked ugly. These guys are obviously here prepared. You still don't give up. Even with the ability of Momo Fruit, the ability to clear the game is much stronger, which makes Xia Xing extremely excited. The strongest person in the world looks like this, which really creates a strong sense of contrast. However, the crowd went all the way peacefully. After reaching the destination, an accident happened. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Newgate's eyes changed, and a familiar aura surrounded him in all directions. With games brought by various races, and various foods, life becomes more comfortable and peaceful. Aokiji, Mahawk and others also responded one after another. Make Baihu, the king's son Newgate, Golden Lion, Rayleigh and others all laugh. Chapter 153, Marine starts counterattack. Advertisement. Garp sighed deeply and did not speak. Sengoku did the same, just watching it quietly. Newgate, the era will eventually end and a new chapter will be opened, and the only one that has stood firm is the world government. Red Earl looked at Whitebeard Newgate, and after a deep word, he became silent. Kaido, you better continue to cooperate with the world government. Kong watched as he hovered in the sky, with an unexpected Qinglong in his eyes and said. Kaido at this time also helped the White Lion Island transport the islands, saying this was a warning and a persuasion. Marshal Kong, I won't do anything to deal with the White Lion Xia Xing anymore, otherwise I will die. Kaido refused immediately. The deterrence of Xia Xing's terrorist outbreak is still in my heart. At this time, let alone continue to deal with Xia Xing. Moreover, are the people of world government showy, and they have to continue to toss. In this case, none of you can leave today. Kong shook his head and tore off his coat. You are already the defeated side. Have you forgotten the promise you made after the defeat? Furthermore, 660 can't keep us with your combat power. Marco and others were also gloomy, but they showed disdain for Kong's remarks. Whitebeard Newgate watched them even more. Only Garp, Sengoku, Kong, and Red Earl were in the eyes. Even if it can't be beaten, it is not a problem to evacuate, but the island has to be moved next time. Kaido also chose to stand on the side of White Lion Island at this time, and the sound of the dragon's roar was deafening. Letterfield, Garp, you still can't keep us. The look in Whitebeard Newgate's eyes at this time was also very dangerous. Aokiji Kuzan, Hakai Mahawk all began to prepare for battle one after another. This group of people is obviously well prepared. At this time, Aokiji wanted to directly freeze the area around the opposing warship, creating a foothold for Whitebeard to start the battle. If you add us, can you keep you? On the warship, 3 figures slowly walked out of the cabin, expressionless, looking straight at Whitebeard. Whitebeard Newgate's complexion changed suddenly and was extremely ugly. Aokiji Kuzan, Hakai Mahawk, Marco, Ace, and others looked at the 3 figures with unbelievable awe. Advertisement. 3 of 5 elders. 3 elders, 4 elders and 5 elders. How can you guys get better so fast? Aokiji Kuzan's pupils tremble a little, and I can't believe these 3 directly appear here. The other people were equally horrified. The 3 of them were the worst hit and the most injured by the White Lion Xia Xing. If I remember correctly, all 3 bones were broken, flesh and blood burst, and serious internal injuries. Even the legendary healing fruit is not as fast as it is good. This is only a few days. Kaido originally planned to fight a battle. When he saw 5 elders, his head suddenly shrank, and he didn't know what to do. Is it weird? There are only injuries, not deaths. The 5th elder smiled slightly, and slowly pulled out a brand new long knife in his hand. Indeed, it was not a death, it was just an injury, and it is not surprising that Mariajoy has this means of recovery. Newgate gritted his teeth and gave a look behind him. One of his captains knew it, and secretly took out the phone bug to inform White Lion Island. As a result, just after taking out the phone worm, a knife chi has been smashed. With a flash of white light, the phone worm broke into 2 pieces directly. Directly destroyed. Whitebeard Newgate looked at the 5th elder who was holding the knife opposite with dignified eyes. Secretly surprised, they are not only hurt. It turned out to be even stronger. Since we are all here, don't even think about notifying Xia Xing. We will go there and notify you. You guys, just follow me honestly. The armed conqueror's haki on the 3 elders rose and spread, looking at Whitebeard Newgate indifferently and said. Gu la la la, it seems that you are not only not keeping your promises, but also preparing to do some small actions. The thoughts on the other side have been exposed, and Newgate is naturally not empty, waving Kong Yunchi directly. If you want to catch them, you have to pay a price at least if you start your hands. The 5 elders 3 looked calm, and they would not underestimate Whitebeard Newgate and his party. After all, before Xia Xing appeared, this guy also led an era. And the ability to shake fruit is hard to deal with. Suddenly, there was a click. The air suddenly fell apart. Advertisement. Newgate directly punched 5 elders and struck each other in the air. The shocking power of horror erupts. Just when Whitebeard Newgate and his party encountered 5 elders, Garp, Kong, Sengoku, Red Earl Redfield and his party. In the waters of all nations. Golden Lion Shiki, Rayleigh, Big Mom and others have just entered the waters of all nations. A group of people also appeared around them and blocked it. Sakazuki took Fujitora, Green Bull, Kazaru 3 Admiral. And Bullet and a group of Marines. The scariest thing is the 2 sitting on the deck of the warship. The Grand Elder and Second Elder of 5 elders. You guys, you dare to make a move. Golden Lion Shiki was a little angry. Feeling bad in my heart, 5 elders unexpectedly dispatched the 2 strongest, and Marine came to encircle. Big Mom stood with a group of children such as the 4 generals, all showing a look of horror. This kind of lineup comes to contain it, and things are definitely not easy. Is it because you want to kill your own party directly? The first elder and the second elder said expressionlessly. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Golden Lion Shiki's Haki all appeared, and his eyes looked straight at the great elder sitting on the deck. Zephyr's voice was full of anger and couldn't help but ask. Sakazuki, Pelusolino, what are you going to do? A smashing cannon hit it directly in his hand. Take a trip, Great Elder, have you forgotten what you said when you retreated a few days ago? Sure enough, you still look like this, it's disappointing. You guys, how about taking a trip honestly and suffering from a little bit of flesh and blood? Ms. Zephyr, we are here with the 5 elders, just wanting to ask you to take a trip. Sakazuki was wearing a peaked cap, and without looking directly at Zephyr, he spoke directly. Golden Lion and others also understood. These people come here completely prepared, and don't know what means they will use to deal with the White Lion. Zephyr looked completely gloomy and ugly, looking at Akainu Sakazuki and San Admiral. You know that even one of 5 elders is not an opponent, let alone the Great Elder and the Second Elder. I haven't forgotten, I haven't entered the vicinity of White Lion Island to make trouble. Zephyr laughed, and laughed frantically. Chapter 154. Execution of the 4 Emperors Legendary Pirates. Advertisement. Wano Kuni and the waters of the world are almost different, and fierce battles have started soon. Suddenly, all kinds of ground shook, and unimaginable power was set off. But at the same time, under the blockade of Marine, and the phone worm was cut off, the information of the 2 wars was controlled extremely tightly, and there was no flow out. Time flickered, and several days passed. New World, White Lion Island. Today's island is really a huge land, and Xia Xing's villa is surrounded by an artistic wall. Outside, the construction environment is beautiful. Many pirates and local residents are quiet around. Some even try to see Xia Xing for a glance, seeking opportunities to soar into the sky. And in the villa, Xia Xing was looking at the screen with scorching eyes, serious, playing the game again. Next to him is Luo's White Bear, serving tea and water. Now in White Lion Island, Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, even Doflamingo and Jinbei are not there. Only the Empress Hancock and Trafalgar are left in the villa. The White Lion headed home. It's been half a month, it doesn't seem to be right. Whitebeard, Golden Lion and the others came back within a few days last time, this time. Luo's long knife was placed on the side, frowning and thinking seriously, and finally couldn't help but speak with Xia Xing. These 15 days have almost passed, which is abnormal. Empress Hancock also frowned, with a beautiful and moving look. Maybe something interesting adventure or something. Xia Xing's concentration is not in Luo's words at all, so he said nothing. Seeing Xia Xing having fun, Luo could only shrug his shoulders helplessly. After all, that is also a group of people standing on the top of the world. If it weren't for 5 elders and others to make another move, no one could stay. 5 elders? Probably not. Thinking about it, Luo was also taken aback by his own thoughts and couldn't help muttering to himself. The world government has promised not to violate each other, and the Whitebeard group and Golden Lion Shiki will not violate the rules of the White Lion head. What happened will delay so long? Just thinking about it, suddenly there was movement in the sky. Doflamingo's subordinates Buffalo and Baby 5 flew outside the villa and hurriedly rushed in. He stammered and shouted, Master White Lion, 5 elders are here. With this shout, not only Luo and Hancock stood up, his expression changed. Advertisement. Even Xia Xing has a black line on his face, and the grip in his hand shakes a bit. The ultimate difficulty level of the game, the blood bar is gone. At this moment, Xia Xing can be said to be a little angry. Didn't these guys agree not to make trouble? A black line Xia Xing sat on her own specially made seat, which could lie down and sit on the salted fish seat and floated out directly. The level game that caused me to play for a day failed. Let's see what 5 elders will do. Luo and Hancock also hurriedly followed. Both Baby 5 and Buffalo panted a little, but they also ran out. As soon as Xia Xing got out of the villa, she saw the midair on the edge of the island, and a unicorn stood in the air holding the 4 elders. 5 elders looked at Xia Xing solemnly. Looking at the situation, it seemed that Xia Xing was ready to run away as soon as she wanted to do it. The Murlocs on the islands, the women of the Amazon, the people of Wano-kuni, the nations and the indigenous people, including the pirates pilgrims around the sea, all the reporters looked at 5 elders in surprise. The 5 top leaders of the world government who promised not to disturb each other even came here, and directly wanted to see the white lion Xia Xing. And after Xia Xing appeared, it was even more enthusiastic cheers. Everyone knows that Xia Xing is the strongest person who shelters this sea area. White lion Xia Xing, you need to go to Marineford. When the 5 elders saw Xia Xing, they didn't talk nonsense and directly explained their intentions. It's just that the tone is not very good. Xia Xing sat lazily, watching the 5 elders suddenly chuckle. Impossible, it's too far, don't go. Cursing her lips, Xia Xing also directly refused. You. The hot-tempered 5th elder couldn't help but want to scream, but the big elder stretched out. Facing the 5th elder, he gave it a look. Don't make trouble, you can't win. Of course, it's up to you to decide whether to go, but you have to see this first. The elder did not rush, took out a TV projection bug, and opened a huge screen directly in the air. For flowers 00. Advertisement. Xia Xing was also taken aback, looking at the projection TV bug in the hands of the elder. Such a large projection, and it can be opened anywhere, cannot help Xia Xing a little interested. However, on the screen, there was a picture that made everyone on the island constrict. Even Xia Xing no longer sat slumped, but instead sat down. In the picture, it is the square of Marineford Naval Headquarters. On a large execution platform, Whitebeard Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Zephyr, and even Pluten Rayleigh all looked tired and were controlled at the front, obviously still with injuries. Behind, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, Aokiji Kuzan, Zephyr, Marco, and even Doflamingo, Jinbei and others were all detained on stage. This is all the people who went to move the islands of Wano-kuni and Wano-kuni. In and around the square, Kong, Garp, and Sengoku were all around the execution stand. Marine Marshal Sakazuki, San Admiral and others are all sitting on the verge of danger. Even not far from the execution platform, the Red Earl Letterfield, Bullet, Desaro and others were all present. On White Lion Island, everyone looked horrified. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. However, at this time, in Marineford, under the dark shadow of the fortress, a figure directly walked out and slowly walked up to the throne. 0. What is the world government doing? Never thought it was such a picture. World government, it is not promised that the well water will not violate the river water, and will never come. Xia Xing glanced, then calmly looked at 5 elders. 4 emperors, legendary pirates, will all be executed. The vice admiral are scattered in the square. There are countless marine fighters densely around. Yes, the pictures from these 2 places were broadcast live all over the world at the same time. 5 elders looked at Xia Xing and said solemnly. The whole world is in a state of confusion at this time. World government, this is going to be messing up again. These guys actually thought of forcing themselves as a means. In front of the fortress, a golden and luxurious throne stood on a higher level of the execution platform. This is being broadcast live all over the world at the same time. White Lion. An adult wants to talk to you too. They are all from the White Lion Alliance. This is to start a war again and prepare for revenge. Chapter 155. The First Celestial Dragons. I'm. Advertisement. Marine Admiral Chapter 155. It's still so people can't see the true face. A luxurious robe was added to the body, majestic, Kun's aura of facing the world radiated above the square. Even Marines warriors, Vice Admiral, Whitebeard Newgate, Shiki, Rayleigh and others on the execution stage all turned around and looked at Yim sitting on the luxurious throne in amazement. Introduce yourself. I'm Yim, you creator god. The indifferent, but indisputable, majestic tone came out of Yim's mouth. The voice spread all over Marineford, spread all over the world outside of the live broadcast. The people who watched the live broadcast were dumbfounded when they heard the title of God of Creation. What is the situation? The 3-4 emperors, the legendary pirates, and a large group of top powerhouses are tied up to be executed. At this time, a creation god came to 663. Celestial dragons, aren't they the descendants of the god of creation? When the royal families of the major kingdoms saw Yimu's attire, their eyes opened wide and their faces were dull. He said, God of creation. The people from the 20 most powerful countries almost fell off their chairs, and looked at Im stubbornly. In the legend that has been passed down from generation to generation, the original 20 kingdoms were loyal to a man named Yim. However, before the people of the world could finish their reaction, a man in black turned on a projection TV bug beside Yim, and the screen was amazingly White Lion Island. Xia Xing and 5 elders are clearly visible. The footage of the White Lion Island is also being broadcast live to the whole world at the same time. Xia Xing's face was indifferent, even watching with interest. I thought it was the Yim with the big straw hat hidden. At this time, Amudu glanced at Xia Xing on the screen and continued to introduce himself. I am the first Celestial Dragons. It should be said that Celestial Dragons, the World Alliance, including the world government, are all created by me. I have lived for a long time. I existed when the Great Kingdom still existed 800 years ago, and I personally destroyed it and established the world government, Mariajoy. With the introduction of Im, people from all over the world, including now Whitebeard Newgate, Pluten Rayleigh group of people. Everyone was confused. Advertisement. Even the red-haired Shanks hiding in the fortress didn't expect that Yim started to introduce himself like this. Yes, the amount of information is so large that it directly crashes everyone's head. At this moment, the whole world is silent. Only Yim continued to speak indifferently to the picture. With the passage of time, one by one, rocks and even the older pirates died in my hands. I didn't mention Roger. Roger surrendered himself, and he was born at an untimely moment and became the most free person for a short period of time. However, after these words, people from all over the world who watched the live broadcast finally reacted from the blind circle, and there was a shocked uproar. The jaws of the kings of the major kingdoms are about to fall to the ground, and the sea overlords of all ages are all killed by him. A person who really controls the world government. But for those 20 kingdoms, the king even knew that Yim really existed. When those royal families moved to Mariajoy, they left a few words. The other side. The supernovas in New World are equally shocking. No, did you hear what he said? Pony was dumbfounded, and Hawkins, who was with him, said in disbelief. He said that he lived for at least 800 years. He created the world government and suppressed the pirate overlords of all ages. Hawkins, who had always been calm, was completely unable to stretch, and his fingers tremblingly began to divination. And what is shown on the card is that what this I'm said is 100% correct. He did not lie. What a joke. The real old monsters have appeared. That was in Marineford, with all the marine power, and even the execution of Whitebeard Newgate, Pluten Rayleigh, Golden Lion Shaki, etc. His words are likely to be true. The same supernovas scattered all over the world, Kid, Arp and others were equally shocked. But after guessing, it is very likely to be true. In the first half of the Grand Line, a dragon boat was driving on the sea, and the screen was on to watch the live broadcast. This is the dragon boat of the Revolutionary Army. Advertisement. It's true. This is too much. Seeing Yim introducing himself on the live screen, the cadre stammered in shock. And Monkey D. Dragon looked at the screen stubbornly. He didn't look at Yim, he still looked at Garp on the screen. He was paying attention to Garp's expression, and after a long time, he said in a trembling tone. It's true. I'm afraid this I'm is really an old monster that has lived for hundreds of years, the first celestial dragons in the true sense. Suddenly, the cadres like Sabo looked at the dragon in shock. Boss, why do you think so? This is probably a fake. It also defeated Rox and the older pirates. This is more like a lie about the establishment of a majestic world government. A cadre immediately raised a question. Sabo and everyone else believed in 0.0 Dragon. Whether it was or not, they were planning for the worst, suppressing the shock, and continued to watch the live broadcast. However, young people are so sharp, they still need to beat them. Including Sabo felt suspicious. Then the purpose of the world government is to force the White Lion Xia Xing to take action. In the picture, you can see Garp clenching his teeth, sweating, and patience. The dragon distinguished it, and he believed this fact in his heart. What a shit god, an old monster who can't face death and can't bear power. Yim remained calm and continued. He may lie and deceive people, but I can see the old man's expression. This is probably true. If it is fake, the old man will not look like this. It's been a long time since I was born, and an interesting little guy appeared. The White Lion Xia Xing is indeed amazing. It has grown to this level in a short period of time. In terms of strength, it is unprecedented and as powerful as no one has come. Revolutionary Army, the greatest enemy. Although now even characters such as Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Rayleigh have been put on the execution stand. The five elders stood in the air, and their expressions became proud as Yim introduced himself without scruples. Xia Xing looked at Yimu sitting on the throne, indifferent to sentient beings, as if holding the master of the whole world in the palm of his hand, very uncomfortable. Monkey D. Dragon has almost reached ultimate dignity, pointing to Garp. In the White Lion Island. Dragon's father.